Hello everyone. So myself and my old sidekick Tim from the Irish Megaphone will be having a gander at the runners and riders for this year's European Parliament election in Ireland. It'll be held on Friday the 24th of May 2019. And at the same time there will be local elections. There will also be another silly uncalled for referendum on divorce, lowering the waiting time for divorce, and also the same day there will be a ballot on voting for the Lord Mayor of Waterford, Limerick and Cork to see if they want to have a democratically elected mayor. Like, that is very important to the people down there. So there's a lot on that day, Tim, a lot to look forward to. Can you wait? Is the tension building inside you?
It is, boy. I'm telling you. No, it's when you drive around here now, there are just election posters just littered absolutely everywhere, And I just drove to Limerick there a while ago. I just went up for a few hours. I had to drop my wife up there, and we were just looking at the posters. And one thing that kind of struck me, I was saying to her that it's, if you're a normal Joe Soap on the street, maybe you're not tuned into YouTube, you're not tuned into some of the alternative media, you would have absolutely no idea who to vote for in the sense that none of these, like all the posters that you see are actually mainstream parties, the Fianna Fáils, the Fine Gaels, Sinn Féin, Labour, the ones that have the money. That I heard there during the week that apparently it costs for those particular posters about €10 a pop. So, people like Gemma O'Doherty now aren't using posters. So you kind of wonder, like, if you're a normal Joe Soap and you go into the polling booth and you haven't done much research, I mean, who are you going to vote for? You're going to go for the familiar name, the familiar face that you've seen on the road. And I think that's the whole idea between the posters as well, So I think some of the new kids on the block who don't have the money to get that publicity that's needed, be the TV, radio, or have the the wherewithal to put up such posters, have their it's going to be tough for them.
Do you think posters influence people?
I think they influence them insofar as they give a certain degree of familiarity to people. Because I'm speaking from my own experience as well, because there was a time in my life where I wasn't really that interested in politics, and I know I would go in to the electoral booth and you look through the names, and and some people I would look through the names and I wouldn't know them from Adam, who they are. I wouldn't have heard of them before. They could have been people that could possibly have appealed to me if I knew what they were about, but. It's a natural human reaction to go for the safe option if you haven't done your research. Maybe you might know your first preference or whatever, but maybe after that, oh gosh, look, Billy Keller, I know who he is. I'll put him down. Do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people are like that, unfortunately. So in that sense, I think the new independents, the new right, whatever what you want to call them, they have. One of the main things about PR, for example, is creating awareness. Whether you're selling a product or whatever, you have to create an awareness. You have to kind of, in marketing as well, there's this thing called positioning, where you're positioning your product in someone's mind, and that costs money.
Yeah. Well, you see Peter Tobin in the Northern Council elections, and he was. I think they did okay. Originally, his new party originally looking at it without looking at it in detail, I was a little bit disappointed because they only got 1 out of 16 candidates. But then when I went into the stats of it all, I thought they did okay. They were very unlucky not to get 2 more elected. I think one just missed out on about 30 votes, so they were very unlucky to get not get another 2 elected. But he was saying with his new party that he was walking around and half the people never heard of his party when he was calling on doors,
Yeah.
So it just shows you when he's up against, like in some places Sinn Féin had 6-7 candidates. I know in one place they had 6 candidates for a council seat. So that's a well-oiled machine,
Yeah.
But just a quick thing before we start on the actual Euro elections, have you any opinion on because you're from Cork? Are you from Cork?
I'm from
Cork
Cork.
City. Will you have a vote on
the mayoral thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. I remember chatting about this with my friend over lunch. I was saying to him, I was saying, the fact that the government, Leo Varadkar and all that, are urging me to vote yes is based on their track record, is causing me to think, well, if they want me to vote yes, I'm kind of starting to incline to vote no. Like, why are they so anxious to have an elected mayor, you know? And part of me has a suspicion that there is a connection between this this need or urge to have a directly elected mayor and some of the Agenda 2030 policies, formerly Agenda 21, that have now permeated all councils here, whereby it'll give Lord Mayors a lot of power, I would imagine, localized power to institute anything they want. You
That's
know,
a good point. Yeah, that's
because
a good point.
if you look at these Agenda 20, like, you know, the whole, if you like, slogan for Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, as it's now called, is, you know, think globally, act local. And the whole idea being is what they're doing is they're bypassing national laws by permeating all local councils. This is worldwide, not just in Ireland, through an organisation called ICLEI, ICLEI. So it's a way of bypassing national law and institutionalizing or imputing a lot of these environmental laws and regulations locally by bypassing national law. You know, so so that was a suspicion. That's just one item that came up in my mind. Like, why are they doing this now? What what would be the disadvantages of a mayor having such power? You know, and I know all. Sorry, go on.
Well, I think that must be it. That must be it. That makes sense to me, because it's not about democracy.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I noticed as well, I was watching last night, and we'll probably touch on this. I was watching one of Big Taboo. He's one of the Irish YouTubers. He had a debate there on the Euro elections. It was a clip from RT. There was 5 people, including what's his name, Kieran Coff. I call him Kieran Coff. You know, Kieran Coff, and Alex White and a few others, and every single one of them was saying how they were absolutely full on for a carbon tax.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Every single one of them, and they keep mentioning. Have you noticed as well in recent weeks that the new kind of climate phrase has been called the new phrase is climate emergency.
Yeah,
it's like
we're going off topic here.
We are going off topic, yeah. But anyway, I'm voting.
We will do a climate change special sometime. Sorry.
So yeah, I'm voting no for this mayoral thing. I'm not sure about it. The government want me to vote yes. So, and given their track record, I'm inclined to vote no. That's it in a nutshell, really.
Well, I just think these are pointless exercises here in whatever.
Yeah.
Silly, really. Doesn't, as you said, what you said makes a lot of sense. That probably is why they're doing it. And just quickly on the divorce thing, I mean...
Divorce thing, I think the current waiting time for a divorce, is it 5 years?
I think they want to reduce it from 4 or 5 to 2.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think 5 years is if you're in that situation, 5 years is an extraordinarily long time to be stuck, if you like, if you're someone who wants to move on with your life. So maybe 2 is somewhat more reasonable, you know.
Yeah, so they want to see couples having to live apart for 2 of the last 4 years, as opposed to what it is now, which is 3 out of the 5.
Well, I think initially the whole point of putting in a waiting time for divorce was to, you know, when you're in the middle of a situation like that and everything is very emotional, and having a certain length of time in the whole process gives both parties a time to, if you like, calm down, for want of a better expression, and to maybe become more rational or think more rational. Because, you know, sometimes when you're very emotional in a situation like that, you can make rash decisions, or it can be, you know, I suppose things can become quite acrimonious. But so I think that was the initial idea behind it. So when there's a period of time, it gives both parties time to think things through thoroughly, you know. So, but I would agree with reducing it. I think it's a bit long the way it is.
Like, the government shouldn't really be interfering in things like that, I suppose. But then again, I mean, what's the rush for these things? I mean, it's one of these, like, John Waters is going to have a field day with this one, I think, isn't he? It's again, breakup of the family, I think. Yeah. It's not something I'm staying awake at night for, but I think of all the referendums they could give, like securing neutrality in the Constitution, maybe, or something like that, or
freedom of expression, freedom of speech. I'd love to see a First Amendment put into our Constitution, you know,
or something about immigration, or I don't know. There must be a million decent things they could do, but I don't know.
Yeah, they're just kind of they're constantly tinkering with the constitution, really, aren't they? I mean, I can like this. I know someone now in that situation at the moment. They've been waiting a long, long time, and so like, I think it's. I personally think it's too long. The wait time is too long as is. That would just be my personal opinion. There probably are people who disagree with me. 5 years is a long time to wait, and sometimes you just want to get on with your life, but you don't want it too short either. Do you know what I mean? So
well, I don't think the government should be involved in this, but I'm just questioning why they're doing these things now. You know, I don't think there's a mad rush for this, but anyway. It's not a big deal, I suppose. There could be other things they could put through in a referendum. Jesus. So I think for this, we'll go through each constituency, looking out for who people like us, maybe the conservative right or the alternative right or
the far right.
The moral guardians. I don't know. What would you call us, Tim?
What would I call us? Jeez, Mac, I don't know.
People who believe in. I don't believe in family, decent morals, fairness, maybe a Christian ethos.
Yeah, I guess that's we'd kind of oppose.
Traditionalists.
To an extent, yeah, I suppose we are traditionalists. We're conservative. We're libertarian. We believe in small government. You know, so all those things.
Fairness and true equality.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Equality of opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah. So I guess that's for people like us, maybe, so we can who we're looking out for in this election, maybe.
So where do you want to start? Who do you would?
So I just when I was looking at what we could talk about, I just seen a funny tweet, and I'll just read it. I'm a non-binary trans masculine person, and I became pregnant as a result of coercion. I was beaten if I tried to take or use contraception, and rape while in a physically abusive relationship with a cisgender man. So I was thinking, like, basically, if you talk bollocks like that, you can toddle on. This is not the video for you.
Who wrote that? Who wrote that?
Some pro-abortion group. I don't know, but I just stumbled upon I have the tweet. I'll put it with the link. But I'm just thinking, like, someone that talks like that is different plane. I don't use that kind of language.
Right.
Cisgender, trans masculine.
It's very confusing. Very, very confusing.
I became pregnant as a result of coercion.
So we're talking about a woman.
I don't know. I guess yes. Anyway, I digress. But the point is, we're not that kind of person. Anyway. Yeah. We'll skim through each constituency. We'll have a look at the candidates we hope to see doing well. We'll kind of diss the ones we don't particularly like to see do well. We'll have a general thought on who might get elected and who should get elected and what we think. So, but before we begin, I just like to say something about the quality of candidates. Tim, I don't know if you had a general look at them all, but for me, what's on show, I have to say, is pretty fucking poor. Excuse my French. It doesn't matter what party you follow. I mean, it seems that a lot of them are scraping the barrel. Yeah. It seems that a lot of main parties have chosen candidates that have been off the boil in national politics for a while, or haven't been seen in public for years. Well, it seems like a retirement home in Brussels, for years of public misservice, which is kind of depressing because, the European Parliament, we rely on it now. So much for the power is coming from the European Parliament, and you'd like to think that we have competent politicians on the ball out there fighting for our little corner, but we don't, not at all, No. When you think about it.
Yeah. I remember I said to you in a previous discussion we had about, the caliber of Irish politicians, or in that context, it might have been in the context of the Irish Parliament, but they're just not very smart people. Let's just face it,
But it does seem in this election it's really bad, the quality of candidates. I mean, generally it's bad anyway. But
I don't know most of them, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but it seems that they're fellas that have been that have failed in becoming TDs. I don't know, but anyway. So for the Euro elections, just to go through it, there are 3 constituencies. There's Dublin, the South, and the third one is the NorthWest and the Midlands. So 13 MEPs will be elected, although 2 will be designated as not to take their seats until Brexit has taken legal effect. So that's never.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of 11 plus 2 with Brexit, or 11 without Brexit. So we can pretty much say it's going to be 11. So I think we should start in the South. That's your neck of the woods.
It is.
There's an awful lot of independents running in your one.
There is, yeah. I was surprised actually myself when I saw the list. I really, as I said to you, I don't recognize any of the names. Very few of the names.
So the incumbents.
The incumbents.
Incumbents.
The incompetents.
Yes, incompetence. Well, we have Leah Darida running again. We have Sean Kelly running again. Deirdre Clune, or Clown as you say, running again. And this time Brown Crowley is not running. Well, I was going to say not running again.
He's getting a nice pension packet I saw in the paper today.
Well, he's never ran, so to speak.
Yeah. I saw in the paper when I was in Limerick a few hours ago that he's getting a nice check for 250 grand or something, plus a pension of 50 grand a year. I mean, he hasn't even been able to go to the European Parliament for quite a few years.
Well, it's a lump sum of 141.
It's 100,000
and an annual pension of around it's just under 50 grand. That's not bad,
Yeah. Yeah.
And he hasn't voted since he was re-elected, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw in the article that he said he was, even though he was undergoing some medical treatment, that he was working from his bed. So
So, that's great. Yeah. I mean, I think that's scandalous, really.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets away because he's in a wheelchair. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I believe in equality. If you're a cunt, you're a cunt. It doesn't matter if you're in a wheelchair or not. That's it.
Well, I think Crowley is, he's probably a decent bloke. Do you know what I mean?
That's not a decent thing to do. That's not a decent thing.
But I don't know the exact details of the situation there. So I just saw this in an article today. I thought he was gone from politics completely until I saw that article a few hours ago.
I know. Come on, there's guys working in factories and there's guys working hard days labour, and he was taking the piss. That's completely taking the piss. I'm sorry. That's bullshit. That is.
Well, as I said, I just don't know. Like, maybe he is. So.
I do know. I know. He's Fianna Fáil.
Okay.
He's Fianna Fáil. That's enough. That's all you need to know. What has he ever done anyway? Like, that's the point about it. I haven't seen him do anything out there, so it's like he does. They've all been doing nothing. I suppose you could argue they've all been lying down on the job.
Yeah.
So So anyway, so he's not running again, and that's a big thing because he had a huge first preference, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a big following. All right, he was very popular. I know that.
I wonder why, but so that might open up this 5-seater. So we'll start with the Fianna Fáil Criminal Network. Malcolm Byrne and Billy Kelleher. Have you anything to say about those two guys?
I don't know much about them.
Fianna Fáilers.
Billy Kelleher is a guy you better edit this out because I just literally know very little about them. I know very little.
That's okay.
I just know the name Billy Kelleher. That's all I know. I don't know anything he's done.
You see,
I recognize his face. I saw his face. Oh, that's the guy I saw 4 years ago on the poster. That's
subliminal messages, both for me.
Exactly. So,
well, what I have here highlighted is so many years in politics, and he has done fuck all to show for it, basically.
But he's a nice smile.
Yeah, well, as you said, I don't know why he's done, but he's 1 to 20 to get in, so that just tells you everything you need to know about politics in this country. And then Malcolm Byrne, the other Fianna Fáiler, basically he failed to get in the general election in 2016.
It says here he's openly gay.
Yeah, that's the main thing about him. Yeah, he's in on this ticket because he's gay, basically. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's a Wexford County Councillor, so that's it. So they're the Fianna Fáil fellas. Nothing else to say about them. I mean, I could do them service and say Billy Kelleher served as Minister of State for Trade and Commerce, Minister for State for Labour Affairs, The other fellow was Vice President of the National Youth Council, former executive member of the European Student Union, but that doesn't mean anything to me. Named as one of the European 40 under 40. What does that mean to anybody?
Yeah. It says here he was caught speeding in Cashel. Was he going over 40?
That's Billy Kelleher. Yeah. Which was ironic because that came in the time when the government were under fire for poor road safety statistics. So not great timing. So basically, there's not much to say about those two guys. They're just a typical Fianna Fáil.
They're just kind of
non-entities really.
Mediocrity.
Yeah, but that's Fianna Fáil take it that they'll probably do well. The Malcolm Byrne fella, he's 4 to 6, so he has a chance to get in. So if we go on to Fine Gael then, they're running 3, so they think they have a chance. They hope to get 2, and maybe drag another one in, but I don't think they will.
Deirdre Clune, her father was Peter Barry. And her grandfather was, or his father was a TD as well. So you have the usual Irish kind of lineage. I think at one stage when she didn't get elected as a TD, she was shipped off to Europe. That's how she became an MEP, I think.
Yeah. But she's been there since 2014, so the last time. But I don't think anybody noticed that she was out there. I don't think.
Yeah, I think she's kind of. I mean, I heard her on the radio recently, and her big achievement now seems to have been the fact that she's contributed to the ending of daylight savings time. Basically. So I don't know.
Her father, Peter Barry, he seemed to be decent enough fella, was he?
Yeah, I don't know much about him now. Be a little bit. I was kind of young when he would have been in power, So,
but it's strong legacy down there, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So she comes from that clan, It's like a lot, I don't know if you remember. There was something going around there a number of years ago where it showed how everyone in the Dáil was related to one another. It was, I remember at the time I was just completely, I was shocked by how many, this is this person's wife, that's this person's daughter, that's so-and-so's brother. It was I couldn't believe it at the time, So this is just another example of that.
When you think of the Fianna Fáil, you have the Lenahans and you have Andrews and...
when I look at someone like Deirdre Clune, I just see someone who's, I in some ways, I kind of feel sorry for her because she's just where she is because of the family she grew up in, and is kind of a bit out of her depth.
Yeah, she's 1-7 to gain, so I think she's going to do it. And then we have Andrew Doyle. I don't know, again, these no-mark politicians. He's Minister for State Food, has served Minister for Food, Forestry and Horticulture. He's a Wicklow politician. Yeah, nothing really. No, another no-mark politician, I suppose.
Yeah, there's
This is going well, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant, yeah. This guy, Kelly, I don't know if there was some videos going around. Actually, it was the GAA guy.
Sean Kelly, yeah.
Yeah, Sean Kelly. I thought they were very funny during the week. I think it might have been when Varadkar was in Cork again, and the video showed Deirdre Clune was kind of floating in the background, and Kelly was on Varadkar's left, and there was another video of them. There was some guy out busking, and Kelly was standing next to the busker, and Leah Varadkar was standing behind the busker. Have you seen any of those videos?
Was that when we were singing the Cranberry song, is it? Or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Zombie. They were singing the song Zombie, and Kelly was next to him, looking like a zombie. But if you'd seen the previous video, when I was watching him at the busker, I was thinking of the previous video where he was standing. It could have been the day before or 2 days before. It was in Cork, and he was standing on Varadkar's left, and he looked like a robot. He looked totally lost. His head was going kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he's the ultimate gumbean man, I have to be honest. I think he's total fucking Egypt, that fella. I mean, he could only ever be from Kerry, couldn't he?
Is he from Kerry? I didn't realise that, yeah. I just knew he was
at the time Angela Merkel retired, he nearly had a meltdown. He was so sad about it,
Was he?
Yeah, he had some Twitter, silly stuff on Twitter, crying, nearly crying for total gumbean. And he got that gig because he was in the GA, wasn't he? He was
Absolutely,
in Gaelic.
yeah.
Kelly has been lobbying to end the biannual clock change. So is there a bit of... I thought you said Clune was doing
She
that.
was into.
So,
Well, I think she was into it as well. She,
doing
he probably got the idea from her.
But he's in favour of Ireland adopting year-round summertime or Central European time instead of its present closer to solar time, Western European time. Jesus Christ. And that's all he's done. That's all he's done in how many years? Since
Instead of its
2009.
present closer to. You mean he's not in favour of going back to winter time during the winter?
I don't know. That's what I got from Wikipedia. That's what it said. He's been
Yeah.
lobbying to end the biannual clock change.
Well, I'd be
in
in
the EU.
favour of the clock staying in summertime. You know.
But he's in favour of Ireland. But he's in favour of Ireland adopting year-round summertime or Central European time instead of its present closer to solar time, Western European time.
Solar time.
Oh, that's what it says on Wikipedia.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
That's... I'm not into this anyway. It doesn't really bother me. But
Yeah, I don't know.
obviously it bothers him.
Yeah.
Himself and Clune have been lobbying hard for this. I mean, that's the flipping rubbish we have represented us in Europe, you know.
Yeah.
And he's one the 14th to get elected. Jesus wept, I think, you know. I mean, he's a total fucking idiot, that fella.
Yeah.
He is the ultimate Gombinism.
He's I kind of, it's funny, it's, you know, we talked before about Gemma O'Doherty, you know, referring to Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael as cults, you know, but recently she referred to the GAA as cults as well, as a cult as well. I kind of got that as well, you know. I kind of,
Oh, he'd get a lot of votes because of that, you know.
Yeah, well, of course he will, yeah, of course.
So then, if we move on to the Shinner, Leah Narida, have you any comments on her?
Well, I don't know that much. Oh, she's a daughter of Sean O'Reilly. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that.
Composer,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, she's big into her. She's a big Gaeilgeoir, native speaker of the Irish
Misha
language.
Era and all that, yeah.
Yeah, and she was instrumental with Michael D as well, setting up the TJ Carr, the Irish language station. I mean, that's 1+ mark, I suppose. But and she grew up in the Gaeltacht. She grew up in County Cork, your neck of the woods. Yeah, she's a nice enough woman, but like I wasn't very impressed with her in the presidential election. She came across very poor, over depth. Yeah, but did you like in the presidential election?
I saw very few of the debates. In fact, I don't think I saw any of the debates during the
Well, she
presidential
came
election.
across very poor anyway.
Yeah.
She didn't really know what she was saying. Like she had to stop and think, well, what exactly is my position and what exactly is Sinn Féin's position? I don't know. I mean, she talks a good game, but again, she's been there for a while, and we don't know what she's doing out there. Odds of 1 to 10 to get elected. You know, I think because she did so badly in the presidential election, and a lot of people are unhappy with Sinn Féin, I wouldn't have that as 1 to 10. I'd actually think she'd be evens. You know?
Right.
I'd be surprised if she got in easy. I don't know, because I think Sinn Féin are I don't think they're gonna do as well as they think they are, and as I said, because she didn't do very well in the presidential. So anyway. The Labour one then, Sheila Noonan. Have you any?
Yeah, I know absolutely nothing about her. Absolutely
Okay.
nothing. Apart
she's
from what
12.
we have here in our notes, you know.
She's 12 to 1. She's
Is she a
General
school teacher?
Yeah, she's General Secretary, National Teachers Union Organisation, President of the Irish Congress of Trade Unions. She's been in a lot of unions, like first woman to hold the role of General Secretary in the trade union. Yeah, but the unions are full of shit these days, aren't they? Selection attracted. Oh yeah, she lives in Dublin.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's a lot of bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah, her team maintain that she lives near the border with County Wicklow, and her parents are from County Kerry, both located in the South constituency.
That's taking the piss, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's not going to do her well. I mean, people are very tribal in Ireland with their counties, you know.
It's a bit cheeky, really, isn't it?
That's not going to wash with a lot of people, I'd say.
Yeah.
No, I don't think she has any hope. The Green Party, Grace O'Sullivan.
Yeah, I saw her recently on a video, a live feed with Eamon crying. I think they were crying over the planet again. This is only a few weeks ago, and I couldn't stomach more than a few minutes of it. I just turned it off, you know. So Yeah, I think actually he could have been launching her campaign. It just popped up on my Twitter feed.
Yeah. So
So
she got 20-year career at Greenpeace. Spent most of her time at your environmental NGOs.
former
I
surfing
suppose,
champion.
yeah, which is important, I suppose.
Hmm.
Yeah, so she doesn't. I mean, I suppose if you're going for the Green Party, that's important, isn't it?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
she was elected as a senator. That's about her only thing in politics. She currently sits with 5 other senators in civil engagement group, whatever that is. But looking at the results in the British local elections and the local elections in North Ireland, I think if there is going to be a swing, I think there might be a swing to the Green Party.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I mean, with a lot of young people, they're brainwashed these days. So,
That's
they're
true.
all
Yeah.
they're all bombarded with this. The world is going to end in 20 years, less than 20 years. I don't know when is that
I
world
thought it
going
was
to end.
12 years, wasn't it?
12 years, whatever. Yeah. So,
12, yeah.
and then apparently we're killing 1 million animals. That was the RT headline
Oh
today.
yeah, I'm actually going to do a short.
Species, yeah.
I'm actually going to do a short video on that tonight about it. I had that article bookmarked there. It was on RT a few days ago, so I'm going to just go through that later
By
on.
the time we finish this stream, there'll be about 100 dead.
Oh, yeah.
You know. But since I gave you the notes or whatever, it's 6-1. She's gone down to 4-1. I actually think if you had a lot of money now, that wouldn't be a bad bet.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't be surprised now to see her get in. I do think there will be a swing to the Green Party in this election.
We'll see.
Um,
But you could be right actually with the young people, you know.
Maybe
Based on
I
what
am.
I saw recently outside the city hall in that school climate protest.
Yeah.
I
But
noticed.
I don't think people are going to vote. I don't think Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael. I don't think they're going to get it as easy as they think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I think things are changing slowly.
Look, I don't like the Green Party or some of these socialists, but there's going to be a swing left or right anyway. There's not going to be. But then again, you can never trust the Irish. Like, Jesus Christ, Bertie Ahern was elected 3 times, so I don't know.
I have
It's
the
hard to-
impression, like with English voters, I would put English voters as being slightly better informed than Irish voters. That would be my opinion. Or they would. It's something they would take. They would take a bit more. I think Irish people are a bit more flippant about who they vote for.
Yeah.
You know, Irish people tend to, unless you're really into your politics and have done your research, Irish people tend to be a bit more feckless about who they vote for. Actually, I voted for this guy the last time. I'll just try this guy.
Yeah. Well, we follow what the parents do. I don't think the English do that, do they?
No, well, that's what I mean. I think British people are a bit more careful, are a bit
Well, I
more
think
thoughtful.
They might do it in the north of England, in some of the
Yeah.
coal mining areas. Like they've always voted, like Sunderland, they've always voted Labour. But but in Ireland that just kills me. Like, my father and my grandfather vote this way, so blah blah blah. So then we go on to some of the mad lefties. We've the 2 Wallaces. We've Adrienne Wallace and Mick Wallace.
Are they related?
Don't know, related in socialism maybe. Yeah.
They'd be
Equality.
comrades. I actually was coming when I was coming up from Limerick a few hours ago. I saw, these huge billboards, letterbox shaped billboards. There was a big one of Mick Wallace, and it was just. It looked like some. I'm not exaggerating now. It wasn't your standard political poster you'd see. It was a big, huge billboard, and it looked like something you'd expect Bono to be, or U2 advertising their new album. That's what it looked like. It was just a picture of Mick Wallace in the middle, and going emblazoned across was just Wallace. It was kind of across the road. I couldn't see what was written, what captions were written with it, but it looked very kind of very slick.
Yeah.
And cost a lot of money.
Adrienne Wallace, then she's solidarity, people before profit. I don't really know much about her. She said people before profit do politics differently. We believe in people power and blah blah blah. I've been involved in establishing a local Repeal 8 group, Kickstart campaign for badly needed women's refuge. What about men's refuge? Active and still waiting health campaign. All this bullshit,
Yeah.
She worked as a waitress. I don't know why she thinks that's important. Becoming full time in
Service?
politics. That's to show her common touch, is it?
Maybe, yeah.
And then she's not listed on the betting odds, so she probably has absolutely no hope. Then we've Mick Wallace. We know about him. I mean, the thing about, I don't agree with a lot of what he does, but he has been right in a few things. With corruption and with the household charge, he was right, and Garda malpractice, yeah. So I think he did a lot of good work there. With the penalty points fiasco, him and Claire Daly, and that pretty much resulted in Shatter getting the boot, didn't it, Alan Shatter? So he's not all bad. And I think if he did get elected, you would at least be guaranteed that someone would be on the lookout for the PESCO agreement. He'd be dead against that. So that'd be one positive, I guess. Like, for Ireland joining a military unit or
alliance,
platform, alliance. So, I mean, he's done a lot of good, to be fair to the man. But from what I've been hearing, that he might find it, because the last election to become a TD, he got a little less than he got the first time round. So he's thinking maybe he'll find it even more difficult to become a TD in the future. So now is the chance, if he wants that cushy job in Europe, now is the chance to go for it, So that's possibly why he's going this time.
Isn't that kind of what Luke Flanagan did as well?
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. Yeah. His odds are 4-7, so he has I think, I probably think he might do it. Yeah.
It's 3 seats. Is it, how many seats in the south? Is it 5?
Well, it's 5.
5, yeah.
If there is a Brexit, so yeah, he could. So now we just quickly go through a few independents, and you can tell me if you know anything about them. So we've Alan J. Brennan, Paddy Fitzgerald.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, Brennan is a non-party homemaker. What's a homemaker? They make homes.
A house husband, is it?
Yeah. Stay-at-home dad. Isn't that what they used to say? Breda, Patricia Gardner, and Peter Madding. 2 more independents.
Yeah, never heard of them either.
Gardner will concentrate on local issues, yeah, good. And Madden is a tour guide. That's all I got on them. I couldn't see the thing with these. I couldn't actually find any. They don't have a website. At least it doesn't come up in the first 2 pages of Google, and they don't seem to have anything else. So you think the most basic thing was to at least have a website.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
We have another 2 independents: Morris Joseph Sexton and Liam Minahan, both independents.
Okay, so Sexton, it says here he's Cork City, a scientist.
Yeah, that's just basic stuff I got on him, yeah. And Minahan, he's famous for his fight the pipe opposition to the Irish water proposal to take water from the River Shannon to be pumped to serve the Greater Dublin area from the Shannon.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that would have been funny. So he's about rural Ireland, yeah. Nothing on them. Then we have another 2 independents. It seems to be not only independents, like Walter Ryan Purcell and Colleen Worthington.
Never heard of them.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of any of these people.
Yeah.
So Purcell, young adults from what's this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, young adults from the age of 16 should have a vote. It's their future as well. But I completely disagree with that.
Yeah.
Fan of Greta Thunberg. Okay, say no more.
Yeah, that's what I got from his literature. So he's a bit of a fucking idiot then.
Yeah.
I mean, 16. So, when I was 16, Jesus Christ.
I know. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I think
it should be going up, not down.
Yeah.
They're indoctrinating them in school, and then they come straight out of school and they have all this bullshit in their head, and they just vote for the Green Party or vote for the Socialist
That's
Party.
what I've told you before about the green schools. I told you I was at this climate change school strike thing I passed by, and it was actually frightening what I saw.
Yeah. I mean, when I was young, I was probably more left wing than I was probably the same as a lot of these people, really.
Yeah.
But as you experience, you tend to become more conservative and go to the right, because reality bites,
Yeah, you start paying taxes. That's basically that's the bottom line.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all you need to know for him. A fan of Greta Thunberg, so
he noticed a gap in the gluten-free bread market whilst running his stall at the English market in Cork. International foods, saving the fisheries, animal rights, etc.
Yeah. And then the other woman, Worthington one, again, she's homemaker. That's silly. I don't like this kind of modern language. Does that mean she's a housewife?
Housewife, yeah. Housewife.
Yeah. Okay, so I think she has a daughter who's sort of brain damaged from birth. Okay, she cares for her. Okay, that's good. She got 3.8 million in damage. I think she's going for. There's 3 women in each of the Dublin, the South, and the North and Midlands. There's 3 women going for. They're going as part of supporting health services in Ireland. They're promoting a campaign for better health service in Ireland. There's a part of a pact, and so they're coming together to raise awareness on how bad the health service is in Ireland, and they're not in the betting. Then we have another 2 interesting candidates, Dermot Patrick O'Flynn and Dolores J. Cal. Now. They call her independent, but she's actually in the Exit party.
Yeah, and she's probably, I'm just going to say, I'm probably going to give her my number 1 vote preference, you know.
Okay.
I've listened to a few of her speeches recently. She's a very smart person, highly intelligent, very eloquent as well, you know, is able to put her ideas across in an easy to understand way, and I basically just liked what she was saying, you know. So I'd have full confidence that I'm not voting for a clown by giving her my first vote preference, you know. So what do you think?
She certainly has a very impressive resume when you're reading it. Like, I mean, worldwide renowned expert in high throughput I don't even know what it is.
Proteomics.
What's that?
I'm not sure. I'm not smart enough to know that kind of stuff.
Even just reading this, high content protein arrays and their biomedical applications.
So
worldwide renowned. Yeah, so I mean, it's all in scientific research and innovation strategy. She's worked in Ireland, Germany, Sweden. You know, she's worked for the Irish government in an advisory capacity. I mean, yeah, her against Sean Kelly, like, Jesus, you know.
Yeah. But then again, it comes down to face recognition, awareness, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't know who Dolores Cahill is, you know.
Will she fix the potholes, though?
Exactly,
you know,
yeah. You know, will she? Exactly, yeah. That's the...
Don't talk to me about
Unfortunately, that's what it's going to come down to for a lot of people. It is very unfortunate, but
nobody cares about antibodies and high-density proteins. We want the potholes fixed.
But she was. Have you listened to any of her speeches?
No, but I've heard they're pretty good, though.
Yeah, they're excellent. Really, really good. Very, very. You know, the minute once I heard 1 or 2 of her speeches, I knew straight away I'm probably going to vote for her.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how she does. I mean, for the Irish party, this is a good starting block. You know,
absolutely,
it'll give them a good idea.
It's a good, to be honest, it's a good warm up for the general elections, which will probably be next year. You know.
Yeah. Going back to the other candidate that I said was interesting was Dermot Patrick O'Flynn. I find this fella quite interesting. He was the founder of the Ballyhay Says No campaign.
Yeah. Now, this friend of mine, Patter, who I interviewed there recently, he's been telling me a lot about him for quite a while, or about the campaign. He keeps asking me, "Have you seen the Ballyhay Says No campaign?" You know, so
they're protesting against the payment to bondholders.
That's right, yeah. And they've been doing it for quite a few years on a regular basis.
Yeah,
you know, so.
I think he's worked closely with Luke Ming Flanagan. I think he was assistant to him for a while, parliamentary assistant. Yeah, so he's kind of like a Luke Ming Flanagan candidate down there, and I don't know, like 33-1 in a 5-seater, and I actually think that's a little bit of I put down a tip, like if you were looking for an outsider, like a real outsider, like 33-1, that just jumps at me, because he did come in the last Euros election, he came, I think, 6th or 7th, right. 6th or 7th, right? You know, and since then, as the country improved, I don't know. Surely in those 4 years he would have built on his reputation a bit more. And I think it's a pretty open field with the Crowley fella not going again, and with Wallace, you know, if Wallace got in, some of the transfers, you never know. I mean, he probably won't, but I think 33-1 is a bit too high for that. I mean, I would put that maybe, if I was like
20.
20, maybe 18. And usually, you know, tipping gambling, like if you see a price that you think is overpriced, you should always go on it, even if it's still not likely to come true, because you're not going to lose a lot. 33 to 1. So I have my money on them anyway.
Do you?
Yes. We'll see. It'll be interesting anyway. But he seems like, I mean, I've seen some of his videos on Twitter, and he seems like a decent skin. So.
Okay, let's move on. So we've got Jan van de Ven, Direct Democracy Ireland, and Peter O'Loughlin, who's from Identity Ireland, isn't he?
Yeah, so these are interesting candidates as well. Any opinions on these two?
Peter O'Loughlin, I've seen some of his videos. He was the guy who got badly beaten during that protest in Dublin by these anti-fat thugs.
Yeah.
I have to say, look, he's quite young, and I admire him in that sense. I admire his tenacity, and I admire his, his willingness to put himself out there. He's a young lad, and maybe I might necessarily agree with everything he's about, but I, a lot of what he says, I do agree. But he's quite young. I think he's one for the future, regardless of how he performs this time around. I think in the course of time he'll mature, and
he's still very young. I mean, he looks very young.
He looks very young. Yeah, I don't know. He looks to me like, I'm looking at a photograph now that he's mid-20s.
Yeah. You're right. Like him in his 40s now.
Yeah, I'd see it. Yeah, exactly. And
I mean, you're right.
He's like just like Justin Barrett was 25 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's had not much success in terms of elections. He's been getting pretty low figures, but like 1.4% in Carlow Kilkenny by-election. Well, he got 0.36% in the last general election, but I don't mind a lot of what he says, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he was a bit foolish with that March thing, though. I think that getting involved with Pegida, that might have been a bit silly. But anyway, the other guy, Jan van de Ven. He's a bit of a computer wizard, I think. That's what to say. He's run before, but with little success. So that's about all I know about him. So he's not. These guys are not in the betting. They probably have no hope again. And then I think it's the last one we have for South. We have Theresa Heaney, and she's actually a pro-life activist. So I don't know if you looked into her.
I definitely will look into her, but I haven't. I have to admit.
Okay. She basically she pro-life activist. She describes mandatory vaccination as an abuse of human rights. That's interesting because that was in the news today. I think they're thinking about mandatory vaccinations.
That's right, yeah. She's starting to sound like a bit of a Gemma O'Doherty character, is she?
Yeah, Cork version. She's...
Without the chemtrails.
I don't know. She might be into that too. Who knows? But she's pro-life anyway. So that's
she's against institutionalized childcare, such as creches, which she believes are damaging to children.
Yeah. Well, I'd see the money be given to parents. Well, I agree with that, and not childcare centres. I mean, yeah, I would actually agree with that. I think, why can't they pay women to stay at home maybe, rather than pursuing this pointless career that will always make them unhappy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a man, because it doesn't have to be. It could be the man as well.
Yeah, it says here, like, she wants to ensure that mothers are not pressurized into the workplace.
Yeah, or fathers, I think. I actually like this candidate, I have to be honest. Marriage is about one man, one woman, a lifetime commitment.
She says here she believes that the mother has been the, quote, Cinderella of public policy. What is she talking about there? What's that about?
Where's this one?
She believes that the mother has been the...
Yeah, and has been forced out of the home into work, with the government aiming for children to be sent to state funded. Yeah, like forced to work, like Cinderella was.
Of course, yeah, of course. Yeah. She's also conscious...
We're digging into her now, let me see.
Yeah. She actually sounds quite interesting, I have to admit. So bank debt and public unease at rising taxes. She's focused her campaign on the rights of...
I'm down to... our waterways are highly polluted with petrochemicals and estrogen. And then she's onto the contraceptive pill. So yeah, she's a bit like Jem, I think. Yeah, that's okay though. So anyway, so looking at all this, so who would you fancy if you were out of all them?
Well, I have to say, well, I've already said I'm going to vote for Dolores Cahill as my first option. This lady, Theresa Heaney, sounds quite interesting. Diarmuid Patrick O'Flynn is very interesting for me. Now I'm talking about my second, third, fourth, fifth preferences. I'll probably go for maybe Peter O'Loughlin, maybe my fourth or fifth preference, Dolores Cahill. So Dolores Cahill, number one for me. Theresa Heaney sounds interesting. Basically, I won't be going for any of the Fianna Fáilers or Fine Gaelers.
Yeah. Well, that's...
Or the Sinn Féiners.
Yeah, well, you're not completely mental, so... Yeah, I mean, I'd pretty much be the same. Yeah, Dolores Cahill. Well, I'm probably Theresa Heaney. You know, I mean, put yourself down as pro-life activist, and I'm very pro-life. So, Dolores Cahill, I'd go for Dermot Flynn, Peter O'Loughlin, and Jan van de Ven. So it's pretty much the same.
Pretty much the same. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, really, Rob, even with the other constituencies as well, more so with the South constituency, there's very little to choose from.
Yeah,
very, very little to choose from. You know. When you look through the candidates, your choice is kind of made up for you, really, you know?
Yeah.
Because, you know I can't vote for Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael of any of these people anymore. I just can't do it. Like, I know I've seen one or two candidates going on about, you know, I've such and such a Fianna Fáil candidate. Oh, she was pro-life during I saw it on Twitter. This person was pro-life during the campaign, but, you know, then her party went against her, blah, blah, blah. And my view is, okay, great. Now she needs to resign from Fianna Fáil, that person. If you're pro-life, you need to resign from Fianna Fáil.
Right, so in Dublin, the incumbents.
The incompetence, as we said earlier, okay.
Anyway, we have Brian Hayes, Fine Gaeler, non-entity really, 25 years of nothingness. He's not running again. He's going to take up a nice shiny job as CEO of a banking and payments federation in Ireland. Handy number.
Lovely.
Yeah. We have Nessa Childers. Our grandfather was the great Erskine Childers. Leading Irish Republican. Another non-entity really. She did leave the Labour. She used to be in the Labour Party. She's not running again. We've Lynn Boylan, Sinn Féin. She is running again. So we'll just have a look at Lynn Boylan first. She's Sinn Féin. A life working in conservation, wildlife, healthy eating, NGOs. Did she ever have to do any gun running for the IRA? You know, these new Shinners, the modern Sinn Féin.
I think she was one of the ones I saw, like I mentioned earlier about the Big Taboo channel. There was 5 candidates talking. I think she was one of them. One of the ones, they were all for carbon tax.
Yeah.
Full on behind it.
Yeah, it's just basically taxpayers pay for fresh air or something, isn't it?
Yeah. And your electricity bills will now be €500 a month instead of €160.
They want to regulate how much. They want to squeeze the ordinary people, you know, and like for ordinary people in the countryside, there's turf out there, but you can't touch it, you know. You can't heat your houses.
It's evil, like absolutely evil to the core. This eco agenda is completely evil.
I know we're going off topic, but like when you see what India and China, they're given free rein to do whatever they want in their own countries, and to pillage Africa as well. The Chinese steal all their resources and cut down all their trees and rainforests, etc., whatever, you know, and wipe out all the wild animals for Chinese medicine. But you know, they want to de-industrialize the West, you know, and pull us back into the Stone Age, you know. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. So she's big into this global action plan, environmental initiative, blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. But she was really what she was well known for in the last cycle of the European election was for the release of Ibrahim Halawi. She did a lot of work on his release. So I should explain who he was, or do you want to explain who he was?
Well, I think most people know anyway, but just the brief rundown. His father is the head honcho in the main Clonskeagh Mosque in Dublin, and has suspected involvement with, let's say, some dubious characters. Let's
Muslim brother.
Muslim exactly. Yeah. And so Ibrahim Halawa and his 3 sisters, off they went on a quote unquote holiday to Egypt, which happened to coincide with the what would you call it? An uprising, basically when what's his name?
Sisi's government took control.
From
the military government. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, Ibrahim Halawa and his cohorts were inside in a mosque when all this uprising was going on, and he was consequently arrested and thrown to languish in jail for quite a long time. And suddenly he became an Irish citizen. You know,
even though he ripped up his passport allegedly.
Supposedly, yeah. And so
she was instrumental in getting him home.
Released, yeah.
But she said, like, if he was an Irish speaking GA playing Dublin lad, would the Irish government have done more if his name was Paddy Murphy, for example? Well, to be honest, if his name was Paddy Murphy, he wouldn't be taking a holiday in a civil war in Egypt, you know.
Yeah. And speaking from the stage,
he'd be more microphone. Like Lanzarote with his mates, wouldn't he? He'd be in Lanzarote with his mates if he was Paddy Murphy. You know, he wouldn't be shitting himself in a mosque giving a speech. So that's who she is. But Herman Kelly made a fool of her, I thought, on TV. I don't know, did you see that when he was asking about her funding? Because apparently she gets some funding from George Soros's Open Society Foundation.
Does she? I didn't know that. Okay.
Well, a lot of them do. All the Fine Gaelers do, anyway. See that they have these committees, you know, that they have, and they get paid to go on these committees and look into all these agendas. And she was surprised because she wasn't expecting that question. He really threw it at her, and she didn't answer it anyway.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
But it was on that Cooper show, you know.
Oh, yeah, the one with Ivan Yates.
Yeah, so she supports the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas, but if you're a working class Irish man, and you didn't go to Trinity or UCD, nah, you can fuck off.
Yeah.
But she's wanted 7 to get the seat, so what can you say?
Yeah.
So Barry Andrews then.
The show I saw the other night where they were all calling for carbon taxes, it must have been the Dublin constituency. This guy was on it as well, along with Climate Cuff. Kieran Cuff and Lynn Boyle, and he was on it as well.
So he's from a political dynasty that we were talking about. His daddy was a long-serving, self-serving, I'd say, TD. His uncle was a TD.
And his cousin is Ryan Tubridy. How interesting.
Yeah.
I knew his brother was the comedian guy. That show was brilliant. He had a show called Savage Eye, wasn't it?
Yeah, David McSavage. Yeah. That was probably the only decent comedy to come out of RT.
Yeah, that was very, very good, yeah.
But it's kind of funny because he hasn't been involved in politics for a while, but he has been keeping a profile in the EU because he's been working for an Irish state-funded EU think tank, the Dublin-based Institute of International European Affairs, you know, Quango. So it's kind of funny that they always seem to get these cushy jobs, you know.
But all these NGOs, they're a form of shadow government, really, aren't they?
Yeah. So it doesn't really matter if he doesn't get elected, really, because he's there anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
You're right, actually. You're right. You're dead right. You could say that about a lot of these people. You know, it's irrelevant whether they get elected or not.
It just means you're topping up on their salary, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, when he was CEO of Goal, he had to resign because of some senior executives were involved in large-scale fraud, though there was no suggestion that he himself was involved in a scandal. Of course not. I mean, he is only in the Fianna Fáil party, you know, so no scandal there at all to see. In its 40-year history, at one of its most challenging years, a deficit of 31.6 million. So he's pretty good to Fianna Fáil. They're very good at bankrupting. The bankrupt countries, so why not a shit charity as well? You know?
Where did that 31 million go, do you know?
Large-scale fraud. They're dealing with African countries, so God only knows, you know.
I'd be very dubious about giving charity to a lot of these African organisations like Trocra and so forth, you know.
I don't know where it went, but that's down the rabbit hole anyway. Who knows? Anyway, he lost his seat and he's back from the wilderness, so he's 310 to get a seat. But I don't know, would he get a seat? He didn't do very well in the 2011 general election. I mean, who would vote for him? I mean, what young person would vote for him? They don't know he's Fianna Fáil doesn't mean as much to them, you know.
Yeah.
Will young people go out and vote? Maybe they
Young
won't. I
people
don't know.
will go towards green, as you said earlier. You know, there's
You know,
Okay.
this political dynasty won't mean as much to someone under 35, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so sorry, I'll move on.
No, you're good.
So we've Mark Durkan with the Fine Gael, the Farmers Party. They must be feeling confident. They have two candidates here, Francis Fitzgerald and Mark Durkan. So any opinions on them two?
Francis Fitzgerald, that's the one that Gemma O'Doherty maintains should be in jail, isn't that correct?
Well, it's not just her. I think a lot of people think she should. I think she should be in the joy.
Isn't that the one who a few days ago released a photograph of a dog saying she found a dog, and then the person who actually found the dog said, "No, I'm sorry, I found that dog. I just asked your assistant for a loan of his camera to take
That's
the photograph."
class.
You know.
Yeah, I seen that. Yeah, well, that's a political scandal in Ireland, isn't it? Doggate. That's enough to bring down her candidacy in tatters. Yeah, I mean, she honestly, the cheek of them putting this one up. I mean, you know, the Disclosures Tribunal found that she had selflessly resigned in the national interest. Isn't she great?
She's brilliant.
You know, I just one thing. Like, I have a real problem with her because I wrote down here. I used to think that Nora Owen was, when she was Minister for Justice from 1994 to 1997, I always thought that she was the worst minister I'd ever seen, because the crime was out of hand in those years. Criminal gangs were taking pot shots at each other every single day nearly, and she hadn't a clue what to do. And you know, because the Fine Gael are traditionally the party of law and order, you know, so she was totally hopeless.
That's when Veronica Gearden was murdered as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. I know she brought in cab, but like it was a bit little too late. And but I mean, the present day Fine Gael party have a lot of good contenders for the worst ever minister. You know, if Simon Harris, if Murphy, even the gay Indian. You know, but I'd say the Fitzgerald one, she's pretty bad too. I mean, she should be in prison. Never mind looking for a cushy job in Europe. You know. And the fact that Kenny and Vardiker gave her the role of Taoiseach, you know, both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's at best incompetence, at worst, well, corruption, you know. Vardiker saying, we have a Taoiseach, it's Francis Fitzgerald, and I think she's doing an excellent job. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, so out of her depth as Minister for Justice. I mean, what did she do, you know? Closing down Garda stations, you know? I don't know. Anyway, that's my little rant.
There's quite a few police stations in my area have all been closed down.
Yeah, that's my little rant there over, you know.
I can't really add to that, really.
But like, and she's 1 to 14. She's like shoe-in, you know. It's unbelievable. I don't know how anybody could vote for that. Just pure corruption. Anyway, and then you have Mark Durkan. He's come down from the north, or has he even come down? Is he?
I never heard of him before, Rob.
But you know, he's up in the north. He's SDLP, so he's not even in Dublin. So.
But is he originally from Dublin?
No, I don't think he's any connection.
But why is he down? That's what I don't understand. Why is he running for election down here?
Because they think he's relatively big name. I don't know. He's a kind of SDLP are like the Fine Gaelers up north, aren't they? So it's a bit strange.
It is.
I don't think
it's very odd.
Yeah, he was First Minister of Northern Ireland, Deputy First Minister for a while, and he led SDLP up north for nearly 10 years. So that's about it.
Yeah, it still doesn't explain. In my mind, I can't get my head around why he would be running for election down in the south of Ireland.
Well, he's big on gay rights, LBGT thing, and they hate Sinn Féin, so he ticks all the boxes for Fine Gael, I guess. You know, so this is, but I don't think it's going to work out for. I don't know why they did that. I mean, he was 6 to 4. He's gone out to 3 to 1. I'd actually put him to 5 to 1, 6 to 1. I don't think he has any chance.
Okay.
They're probably thinking that the Fitzgerald transfers will bring him through, but I don't. I think the main parties might get a kick in their balls. I don't think they'll be doing as well as they think. You know. I hope not. Yeah.
Okay, so next up is Gillian Bryan and Rita Harold. Okay, two socialists.
Yeah, Solidarity, PBP, the mad socialists. So
engaged in youth work and drugs work.
Yeah.
The homeless sector, working within the human rights field, dealing with LGBT and young people, travellers, asylum and refugees, human rights for the last 18 years. Okay.
Yeah,
Do you know much about these two?
No, but that's all I need to know in that,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, yeah.
But tell us what you've really done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, LGBT, is there not meant to be a Q there? Is she going to get in trouble for that?
Q. Isn't there another letter as well after that? LGBTQI or something? Or I've
P,
lost.
bro. P,
What?
maybe.
Is it P? Oh, no. You're very naughty, Rob. It's,
But she said dealing with them. I mean, how does she deal with them?
who?
I mean, that's what it says. She deals with them. She deals with the LGBT and young people.
Maybe that's related to her drug work. She deals.
Yeah, silly stuff, you know. So she goes on about the homeless crisis, but the socialists basically, their answer to all these problems is just ask taxpayer for more money. That's it. It's always never ending. Go to the kitty for more, you know.
Yeah, it's like the solution, like Pater said in that interview, that the solution is always tax and more tax to any problem.
And from the ordinary decent skin of the country that has to pay for it, you know. And she's big on women to have the right to bodily autonomy. But do they not have that anyway? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. It says Harold here, in your notes there, willing to end the rule of the super rich. I mean, really, do we have that much super rich in Ireland? Seriously.
I don't know. We probably do, but like, I'm sure some of them worked hard for it. Like, that's pure communism, isn't it?
Yeah, here's one, like here, end church control of health and education.
Yeah,
I mean, really?
Yeah, but that's silly, because you have to give the church some credit for, you know, because if they didn't do it, who would have done it, you know? Who like, I went to a CBS for a while, and, you know, I wouldn't have got, like, you know, how would we have gotten education in this country without the Christian Brothers and the nuns, you know, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And same with the hospitals, you know.
Yeah.
So it's all very well to say big bad church, but you know, look at the government. When the government take over and they're building a hospital, and it's the most expensive building in the world. So
2,000 million euro.
Yeah, so maybe we should go back to church control of health and education. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
at least they lived within their means. Or
well, look at the way they do things in England. All the Catholic schools, they're doing very well in the educational charts. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So both of them are not in the bet. You know, Gillian and Brian, I think she's 30-1 outside, and the other one is not in the betting, so they've kind of no hope. Now we have your favourite politician next, Kieran Cuff.
Kieran Cuff.
Yeah.
Kieran Cuff. But this is the guy who gave away 22 million euro of Irish taxpayers' monies to a climate slush fund in Cancun in Mexico some years ago. Just gave it away. You know? Went off to his little what would you call it, junket in Mexico, and gave 22 million. So I just signed away 22 million euro.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys that I keep hearing him on the radio, you know, about wanting to bring us back to the dark ages. We should all be cycling bikes.
Yeah.
And I didn't know here that he was left 1.3 million in his mother's will.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I bet he didn't give any of that to the climate slush fund in Mexico.
Well, I think he invested some of it in shares in oil exploration companies, or did he? No, he actually inherited some of that from his mother. 70 grand worth in oil exploration companies, you know.
Yeah, so he's a wealthy man.
Yeah, and then I'm sure you know, of course he is.
And again, you know, like all the others, full on behind the carbon tax on the Irish people.
Yeah,
it will never affect him. Never affect him.
Well, he lost his seat in 2011. When the Greens went in, they did the deal with the devil, as he said, Fianna Fáil, and it cost him and his party dearly. But he has a chance, you know. As I said, there's going to be a swing to the Greens, I think. Going what happened in England and what happened in the north of Ireland, and like he was 2-1, and now he's gone down to 10-11. So you know, it'd be smart money on him. He's very dour though, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't like him at all.
He's Jesus. Does he ever smile? Like, it's a grimace.
But
isn't
all
it?
the Greens are like that, really, aren't they? So you
Yeah,
see, they've got the weight of the world on their shoulders,
exactly. That's what I was going to
and
say. Yeah,
I just hate their moral superiority.
yeah.
And
I guess
and I noticed one thing he said, because I noticed Eamon Ryan says the exact same thing about, like, in the context of the carbon tax. He was saying that it'll encourage people, having a carbon tax will encourage people to do the quote right thing, and
yeah,
Eamon Ryan used the same type of language. And so there's this kind of moral superiority about them that I find just nauseating, to be honest, and this
yeah,
fake climate change. It really, I know we talk a lot in various Irish channels, talk a lot about immigration and all these threats to Ireland and the EU and all this, but I feel that this whole climate change thing is really ramping up now, and I think it's one of the most dangerous things that's
yeah.
coming down the road.
Well, I think even in Germany, the Green Party do well in the state elections as well, didn't they? And I think in another country, some elections, where was it? They did fairly well. What was a
Probably
recent one?
Denmark or someplace like that.
There was one recently now that did fairly okay. So I think that they're pushing the Green Party is the new alternative, isn't it? Again, it were a few years ago as well, but they're kind of repackaging them now for young people to vote for, and it's just a scam to push more taxes. I mean, so you can see that maybe the traditional parties have gone down, and maybe the socialists have gone completely crazy with the LBGT thing. So maybe it's now time for the Greens to move in with all this carbon tax and all these any other environmental things like wind turbines everywhere and all this. So this is this is going to be the politics that's going to dominate for the next five years maybe.
Yeah, brave new world.
Which is very worrying. You're right.
It is very worrying.
It's worrying.
I don't mean to keep harping back to it, but what I saw outside the city hall on that climate strike, that kids, school climate, was actually very frightening.
Yeah.
It really was akin to a Hitler Youth rally.
Well, I think that the future is that they're going to restrict households and the amount of their carbon footprint. Everybody's going to have a certain amount of what they can spend.
It's going to be based on energy consumption. So everybody will have their, if you like, carbon credit. Your what you can do basically will be measured in energy units, what you use. That will go down to how many times a year you can fly and all this kind of stuff. So,
but if you're an immigrant or a refugee or a lesbian, maybe you're allowed.
You get some extra credits, will you?
Yeah, you can shower twice a week, whereas the rest of us have once a month, maybe.
Whether we're dirty or not.
Well, what do they call us? Gammon, anyway. Anyway, so that's him.
Okay.
We'll move through the next ones we can move through fast. So Ellis Ryan, the Workers' Party, and Alex White, the Labour Party. So they're representing the workers of the country.
They said they are anyways. Alex White, he was another guy that was on that TV show. Another guy pushing the carbon tax. Full on behind it.
He's been around for a while, hasn't he? Well, he was. All I can remember him is he's a failed politician, wasn't he? Lost his seat in 2016. Oh, he was a member of, a supporter of various Trotsky
groups, yeah.
including the League for a Workers' Republic. Oh my goodness.
Worked for RTE.
Yeah, that's enough. Yeah, he always has a smile on his face, and I wrote maybe because he hasn't a fucking brain in his head. Non-entity.
If I had a few $100,000 in the bank, I'd have a smile on my face as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically done nothing in his political career. And then we have Ellis Ryan. She's in the Workers' Party. The Workers' Party are kind of strange. They're kind of Marxist Leninist political party.
Labour Party, didn't they go through a period of being called the Workers' Party?
Well, no, Labour goes back to since the time of Connolly, does it not?
No, I don't think so. I think Labour is a relatively new name.
It's not. Honestly.
Am I getting mixed up now? But
I have to Irish Labour Party. Let me check. So members in the Labour Party split from the Labour Party and formed the Socialist Labour Party. So that's probably what you're saying, the Socialist Labour Party. And then they went off to form the Workers' Party, and then that went into Progressive Democrats and Democratic Left. Yeah, but it's just a typical socialist thing. They always break off, don't they? So anyway, they're Marxist Leninist. they have all the red flags and everything on their website, all that bullshit. So community sector of SIP2 with shops here, blah blah blah. Workers' rights, safe planet, and a safe planet. Housing a right, not privilege. Fight for equality. The fight for equality is not over, and all that jazz. So no hope, no betting available at the moment. Alex White is 5-1. He's pushed out to 13-2. I don't think he has much of a chance. I'd say I'd give him. What's it? 13-2 is what, 2 6. That's 6. I'd probably put him 10-1. You know. Okay, so we have a few two independents then. Tony Bosco Loud and Mark Mullen.
Tony Bosco Loud is independent, a gardener and a social entrepreneur. The other chap, Mark Mullen, has delivered aid to 30,000 people in war-torn Syria while working with an NGO partner, GOPA DERD. Do you know who they are?
No. But he's done a lot of work in Africa, Syria, the Middle East, Iraq, Israel, Palestine, Yemen. So he's done a lot of humanitarian stuff, but that's great, isn't it? It's a bit of a do-gooder. It's all over there. It's not in Ireland, so
Yeah.
oh, whatever. It just doesn't interest me at all. So none betting odds for both of them. Nothing at the moment. Okay, so there's some more socialists then.
Or
Claire
favourite, Claire Daly, yes.
And Gary Gannon. Oh yeah, him too. Have you seen him on the Mark Cooper show? He's been on it a few times.
I haven't actually. No, I don't really watch that show that much. I actually don't have a TV, so.
Well, I only watch it because of Orla Red most of the time. So.
Right, yeah, that's where I might see. Yeah, I might see some of those clips on her channel.
He was talking about the black woman that was going for the Social Democrats. Remember? And he was defending her. He was saying that how dare we question that she's.
Yeah, haven't they repackaged her now again? Or
I don't know.
I don't know what's going on. That they've basically straightened her out, and now she's going for election. And
so anyway, Claire Daly, again, it's like Mick Wallace, her friend. They do a lot of good work. I mean, you know, with the household charge and the water thing, and
have you ever seen her smile?
Well, she's a socialist. They don't smile, so they've nothing to be happy about. They've too many things to fix in the world. I think she's a nice woman, actually, but you know, she's a long-standing atheist, but her brother and uncle are in the Catholic priesthood. That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. That's funny. To be fair now, I thought this was good. She criticised the President Obama coming to Dublin and the Fine Gael Labour government of prostitution in the country. I think that's true. They said that Fine Gael and Labour were slobbering over Obama and his wife. The war, actually, yeah.
I think I remember that, yeah.
And that was embarrassing, like, Jesus, you know? Yeah, I mean, I said she's decent enough skin, clearly deluded, of course, but I think her heart is in the right place. I did say she could do with lightening up, so yeah. Why does socialism have to be so depressing?
I suppose her political views would kind of incline me towards disliking her, you know. But as you say, I don't know her personally. Maybe if I sat down, had a coffee with her, she could be a perfectly nice person. And I could say that about a lot of people, really, you know. So so when I'm kind of looking at things like this, I'm just really looking at people's political policies and all that. It might be a different kettle of fish if I met them in the street. I went for a coffee with them. I might like them personally. It doesn't mean I have to like what they're about, you know. Yeah,
well, I to be honest, I wouldn't have coffee with anybody in Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael.
Wouldn't you?
No, they're just brain dead. I wouldn't go near them. The land of the living dead. Gary Cannon then. He's Social Democrats. As I said, he made a good few TV appearances, and he looked pretty well out of his depth. Yeah.
Is he gay?
Well, he's a soya. He has the soya look down to a T.
Right.
Even though he's son of a street trader, so I don't know what went wrong. He left school to train as a plumber, but I don't know. He's gone totally soya boy.
So he's a member of the Dublin City Council.
Yeah, he often speaks about access to education, gang violence, and because you know, universal free education is just something that criminals and thugs haven't figured out as of yet. You know, I don't know what Gary's talking about. Access to free education, you know. Like it's like I went to a rough school and the education is there. No one's stopping you from opening a book.
Is he referring to third level education? No.
I don't know. Universal free education. Access to education plays in poverty. I don't know. I always find that a load of bullshit. Like, it's free, you know.
Yeah.
It's there. You pick it up. That's it. If you don't want it, don't be making excuses later in life. You know. But anyway, so he's 25-1. No hope. And Claire Daly is 2-5. So she has a good chance to be elected. I think there.
And she's kind of a known entity, really. People know her, you know.
Yeah, so we've independents basically in small parties. So Alice Mary Higgins and Aisling McAniff, both independent. Anything to say about those two?
Not really, because I don't really know who they are.
Exactly, but Alice Mary Higgins, her father is president of Ireland.
All right, really?
Yes.
Why am I not surprised? You know, it's just, you see,
I
there
didn't
we
know.
go again, you see. This is the problem. This is the problem in Ireland.
I didn't know that as well. She keeps that quiet, doesn't she?
Of course she keeps it quiet.
It's a wonder she's not running on the Labour ticket.
Yeah. And she was a senator or has been a senator since April 2016.
Yeah. So
she she's a campaigns and policy officer at the National Women's Council of Ireland and a board member of the European Women's Lobby, whatever that is. So she read English and philosophy at UCD and took a philosophy in theatre and cultural studies at Trinity College and a Fulbright MA in sociology at the New School in New York City. So she's well educated. So maybe her father, Michael D. Higgins, is the current president of Ireland. Okay.
Here I found on her website, but she works for some European Parliamentary Forum. Again, we're talking about NGOs, like executive of the European Parliamentary Forum for sexual and reproductive rights, and she also writes for the European Commission to express concerns about various things. Blah blah blah.
Is that abortion?
Yeah, probably, but but like again, it's all these NGOs, you know. As a member of the EPF, so as a member of this, she expressed deep concern regarding the integrity of the forthcoming European elections. She has a deep concern about religious extremists who hope to mobilize European societies against human rights and sexuality and reproduction. So when you think religious extremists, of course, you can only be talking about
people like myself.
Yes.
I know you didn't want to say it. You didn't want to hurt my feelings.
Yeah, but that's it, you know, because she actually says it in her thing. She says it.
An open democracy investigation uncovered information about the transnational actions of certain Christian extremist civil society organizations aiming to drive European voters towards far-right populist political parties, apparently in full alignment with these political parties.
So can you believe that rubbish, you know? No word on and she said, like, funding, all this funding. Well, what about George Soros? And all his open society funding? What about the religion of peace?
I don't know what a Christian extremist civil society is.
What about the Wahhabi infiltration of Europe? Like, and have a big centre in Dublin, you know? These things, I don't know. It's funny, head in the sand kind of thing. She's 6-1, but she's moved out to 9-1, so that suggests that she's not really going to do much. I'm just surprised why she's not on the Labour ticket. I really don't understand that. So the other one, McAniff, she's mum of two. She's care and passionate advocate, raising awareness of the disability. So this is the same thing as the one in the south we were talking about. So it's families speaking out, concerned parents of children with complex health needs. It's her, Aisling McAniff for Dublin, Colleen Worthington for the south, and Olive O'Connor. And they just want the government to change its plans for National Children's Hospital. They want the government to concentrate more on supporting children with disabilities. They want the government to stop the reckless squandering of taxpayers' money on inappropriate projects and more funding with health-related and other projects throughout the country. So they're kind of health candidate. It's interesting that she supports abortion, though.
That is interesting, yeah.
You know, so that means, you can fuck off with all that bollocks, to be honest. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be frank, I don't give a shite.
That is surprising, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you can ask your friend Simon Harris to help you out. I just don't understand. That's like, for me, that's an opposite. You know, you have a child who has Down syndrome, and you know full well. Well, maybe you don't want to hear the facts, but you know full well in countries like Iceland and even in England, kids with Down syndrome, you know, get aborted quicker than kids that don't have Down syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a logical thing anyway. You know, as bad as it's a bad thing to say, but that's what would happen anyway. You know.
Okay, so we're getting towards the interesting for us, candidates in Dublin. So, Ben Gilroy. So many people would know about Ben Gilroy through, I suppose, maybe through his connection with Gemma O'Doherty, or his friendship with her, you know. So do you remember before we went through the Yellow Vest demands, and he was kind of running that, and one of the demands was this idea of, I think it was one of the demands, the citizen-initiated referendums. Wasn't that one of them? I think this is a bad idea, because, you know, people will want referendums for every minor thing, you know. Another thing I have a minor problem with Ben about, and maybe I know Gemma has had his friend Vinnie Byrne on her show, is this whole free man thing. I think a lot of that is just completely bogus. These kind I
think so too,
it's completely bogus. I mean, this whole none of these freeman cases have ever been successful anywhere in any common law jurisdiction in New Zealand, Australia, UK, Canada, or whatever. It's so I think people really have to be very careful with this freeman stuff, because you can get yourself in a lot of trouble and end up someplace you don't want to be. So they kind of Ben Gilroy seems to be pushing that kind of freeman thing to an extent, and I would have a concern about that, you know, because I think it's misleading a lot of people, in my opinion.
But he's
a nice guy, and I like him.
Yeah, and he's pro-life as well, and he'd be against the EU, you know, and he's done a lot with the anti-eviction thing, and you know, and he's on the water charge protests and all these protests. He's
absolutely,
getting out and about, like, you know. So he doesn't fanny around, like he's out there, you know. And you could say he was a political prisoner. I mean, they threw him in prison for something silly, didn't they?
Yeah, he's out now again twice. They've thrown him in.
Yeah, basically just taking the piss.
Or is he out? Is he? Or did he not come out again in April?
No, I think he is out. Yeah.
Is he out? Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, he insulted and threatened the court, and he did relatively okay in one election, didn't he? I think. So anyway, and then Herman Kelly.
Yeah, I like Herman.
Yeah, I like him.
I do like him, and
he's a good sense of humour.
Yeah, he's very down to earth. I think a friend of mine met him there when they had their meeting in Cork recently. And he said, I didn't get a chance to go along to that meeting, but he said, you know, he's a lovely guy, you know, really lovely guy.
Yeah.
And
he doesn't. I like the way he doesn't get riled up.
Exactly.
All the abuse, he takes it in his stride.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very hard to do.
Yeah, he's kind of
shows you how chilled he is. Like,
he's very calm and collected, and just, you know, I think he's a good guy. He's a good heart. Yeah. And he's not in my constituency, but I would have no problem supporting him. In fact, I probably would be supporting him as my number one if I was in the Dublin constituency, you know.
Yeah. So he's gone for the IRX that they want to get out of the EU. Freedom to Prosper Party is to say. Yeah. So then we have, I think, the last two on this one. Eamon Murphy and Gemma Doherty, both independents, or it's Gemma Doherty, Anti-Corruption Ireland, isn't it? Yeah.
So let's Eamon Murphy. Let's leave Gemma to last. At least it's best to last.
Yeah.
Or the most interesting. So he's Murphy is a long-time pro-life activist, and what's the thing about him? Was he threatened with jail?
Yeah, because didn't he have a few websites that were very similar to abortion sites, or information sites on how to get abortions?
Oh, the web addresses, the domain names, basically. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, domain names, and I guess, and they said allegedly he threatened people then that rang up, and he rang people. I don't know, would you believe those stories either? I would believe nothing that the mainstream media say. So
Yeah.
he's probably a little bit mad, this fella.
I haven't heard him speak, so I can't comment on how mad he is.
Yeah.
Will I read
But,
out some of this here?
well, it's up to you. I mean, I think he's just a pro-life activist. So,
Okay.
yeah.
What are his
That's
odds?
basically. He used to be in the Christian Solidarity Party,
What are they?
Christian Centrist
Centrist
Party. They were just a Christian political party. They didn't really do much in the election, 1991, 1992 elections. Christian principles. So, yeah, and he stood, but that's about it. So not much about him. So Gemma, then, as we know, we've done a special on her already. So.
So her odds. What are her current odds? I see 33-1 here.
It's the same. Hasn't moved.
Is she worth the?
No, I
wouldn't say so. Is she worth putting a few quid down on?
No, I don't think so. You have to remember they have to get about 100,000, I think, more or less, to get in. I don't see that happening.
You see, I've heard Gemma saying recently that, she's putting herself up, and if people reject her or not, they don't have to vote for her, and so be it. She's done her bit, but she's only really given herself 6 weeks. How is she going to penetrate the market in 6 weeks with no posters, no TV coverage? I think it's it's a pity she wasn't running at this from 6 months ago.
And it's just so hard. It really is nearly impossible for a non-party. I know their independents do get in, like Ming and Marie Harkin got in, but like it is really difficult if you don't have a polished machine behind you.
Yeah. And like I've said to you before, with Anti-Corruption Ireland is, for me at the moment, anti-corruption for me is kind of like an idea, and it's all centered on one person. Whereas if you compare that to, let's say, the Our Exit Freedom Party, or the, what's it called now, the Irish Freedom Party?
Yeah, Our Exit Freedom to Prosper. Yeah,
it's a bit more organised. It's not dependent on one particular person. You've got a lot of people who are involved, highly intelligent people, like Dolores Cahill, for example. And they're getting a lot of media coverage for such a new party. So when you compare that with Anti-Corruption Ireland, okay, they're both new kids on the block, but Gemma's party, it's just Gemma really at the end of the day.
But I wonder, is it really important to get elected? Because the Irexit and her party, and maybe with the Ben Gilroy, for example, and even maybe some of the pro-life people, it's probably just getting the message out is more important than actually worrying about getting.
Yeah, and I would see, to be honest, the European elections as maybe a good warm-up for the general election that might come in about a year, next year sometime. And so I think it's giving them a bit of experience as far as running for election, and hopefully it'll, by the time, where could Gemma be with her followers a year from now? She's 16,000 subscribers on YouTube at the moment. Who knows? Maybe this time next year she could have 30,000, 40,000.
She could have a little militia.
If she keeps going the way she's going, do you know what I mean? So I think it's good that she is running, but it would be my hope, that she would keep going, whether she gets elected or not. Let's say she doesn't get elected, that she would just keep going and keep building her popularity, if you want, or her following. And who knows? Like by the time the general election comes around, who knows? You know?
I just hope that she doesn't get too, because she kind of puts her heart and soul into everything, and I just worry that she might be a little bit deluded, that she thinks I wonder, does she think she's going to do well? And I would say maybe she won't do well, and she might just go a bit crazy for a while after that.
Yeah, but it's like I said to you, the way she's talking there, about, she keeps saying, well, look, folks, I've put myself up. If no one elects me, then, there's nothing I can do. That's, but I'm saying, yeah, that's great. That's good. But you've only given yourself 6 weeks. You've only announced that you're going as a candidate 6 weeks before the election. Yeah. That's not enough time to penetrate the market, And
she went off to Sweden or somewhere as well, didn't she?
And she's in the UK this week. Did she say she was going to the UK this week? So do you know what I mean? So 6 weeks, 6 or 7 or 8 weeks is not a realistic time frame to reach people.
So that's Dublin. If you were to give a preference, then out of all that, what would you be?
My heart wants to give Gemma number one, but if I was realistically voting, I'd put Herman Kelly first because he has
Yeah.
a bigger chance of being elected. Then I would give Gemma maybe. Then I would give Ben Gilroy, and then Murphy is number four. Or,
Okay,
you
it's
know,
same as me then.
yeah, as I said, my heart wants to give my number one to Gemma, but but my head tells me no, give it to Herman.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's going to be harder if they were in another constituency. It might be easier because there's more independence and there's more chance of transfers.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, there's really no chance of transfers. I don't think between the three of them, Doherty, Gilroy, and Kelly. They're just like there's no other independent like Luke Ming or Wallace that they could get the odd transfer. There's no maybe other like Casey in the northwest they could get a transfer. There's no other candidate that they could get a big transfer from. So it's a tough one, Dublin, you know. Okay, so Tim, let's look at the Midlands and the northwest, which would take into account the west of Ireland and Donegal as well. Incumbents were Luke Ming, who's running again, Mairead McGuinness, she's running again, Matt McCarthy, Sinn Féin, is running again, and Marion Harkin, she's an independent, but she's not running again. I'm not sure why. So she was an independent, and I think she was there for 2 terms, I think. Nice enough woman on an independent ticket, but she was to the left of the centre, I think with the socialists or something out there. But I'm not sure what she did. She did anything substantial in her time out there. But I know she was also one of these people that were in the pay of Soros and his foundation. So you know,
At the Open Society.
Yeah. I will leave a link to that at the end, to that document. That details all the people that were in that Open Society and all the see what it is a foundation. They have various foundations and conferences on issues that are progressive issues, you know.
Yeah.
And they'll have a conference on it and they'll discuss it, and then they're expected to push it through the European Parliament then.
Right.
So that's how it works.
And what do they get in return?
Well,
a few backhanders?
Well, politicians usually work for the benefit of the people, I think. That's what I've read somewhere.
Right. Okay. That's the job description anyway, is it?
Yeah, that's what to say anyway.
Right.
So we'll start with the Fianna Fáil Crime Network. So I think it's a 4-seater, this one. So, and I don't think there's any change because of Brexit. So it's 2 from Fianna Fáil, Anne Rabbitte and Brendan Smith. Do you know anything about these 2?
I know very little about them. I'm just wondering, is Anne Rabbitte, is she related to Pat Rabbitte in any kind of fashion? Would you know?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question though. But like as you said,
it's an unusual name, you know, so that's why I'm curious.
They also, as you said, they all seem to be related. So she could be a cousin or something like that.
Yeah, or a sister. Or...
She's been a TD for Galway East since 2016. I think she's relatively new.
I'm looking at the photograph to see is there a resemblance. You know, it's looking very carefully. I have to blow it up a bit. You know, I'm looking into the eyes. You know, it's all in the eyes, Rob.
Around the eyes, not in the eyes. She's 6-1, which is, I don't know, like, I mean, that's not bad. I mean, Fianna Fáil have their supporters, don't they? I mean, Brendan Smith, he's one of the old boy networks around the time of Bertie Ahern and Cowan. He's a bit of a Fianna Fáil dinosaur, so I'm not sure.
Was he a TD at some stage?
Yeah, he's been a TD for a while, I think.
Right, so he's been put out to pasture to Brussels.
He's Minister for Agriculture. When he was Minister for Agriculture, he offered free cheese to the poor.
All right.
If you remember rightly.
That was very nice of him.
Yeah, because, you know, there was the cheese mountains and he thought he could divert it to Ireland. So, and that kind of made headlines around the world. Right. All the Irish beating up.
I've heard of the Butter Mountains, but the Cheese Mountain now is a new one to me. Okay, but I think now that you mention it, it sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah, just before he left the office of Minister for Agriculture, he gave the go-ahead for genetically modified organisms, GMO foods, right, to enter Ireland.
he is anti-abortion, but he's still in the Fianna Fáil party, as you said rightly before.
You mean do you mean, Rob, when I refer to the fact that look, if someone is pro-life and then they're in a party like Fianna Fáil, they need to resign.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
go independent or join another party, but they can't. There's a complete discord there between being pro-life and continuing to remain in as a member of the parties that have brought abortion into this country. That would be my view.
Yeah, so this shows he has no backbone, really. Yeah. So he's 5-6. It will be close, but as I said, he's one of the old boys, and I don't really know, do people have time for the guys that were around the time of Bertie Ahern and Brian Cowan,
Yeah.
So I don't know about these two. I think it'll be tough for Fianna Fáil in this one. Then we go on to the Fine Gael. We have Maria Walsh and Mairead McGuinness.
So Maria Walsh is the kind of Sinead O'Connor lookalike. Grey-haired. She's, as far as I'm aware, she's gay, and she's big into the environment, and she keeps mentioning that she's a world citizen as opposed to an Irish citizen.
Yeah.
I just saw a little kind of promo there, a Fine Gael promo on Twitter a while ago, and she was quite prominent on it, and it was all this fake climate change, fake climate emergency nonsense, and how she's going to, whip Ireland into line as far as fixing the climate is concerned, so she definitely wouldn't be getting my vote if I was up there, but I've seen her as well on a talk show. She came across to me as a bit of a know-it-all,
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
I wouldn't
These
have much
kind of
time
people
for
are right pain, absolute right pain, They're the kind of people that get unhinged very quickly. Yeah, so she was Crown Rose Tralee, the first lesbian to do so. She's self-employed as a media and event consultant. That's her job.
It must be involved in some kind of PR background. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, it's not a real job, is it?
Yeah.
And she celebrated her 20th anniversary of being a pioneer. That means she doesn't drink alcohol.
Or she's part of the Communist Party. It's one or the other.
Know.
Don't they? Didn't they have their little pioneers with the red scarves around the necks? Isn't that what they were called, the pioneers?
I don't know, maybe.
And she's wearing red in the photograph that I saw.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's passionate about mental health, diversity, inclusion, women's rights, and working to improve young people's lives. So that's all you need to know. All that bullshit. So, when they go on about mental health, it's a real telling thing for me, because that's a topic that's easy to talk about. Anybody can pick up that topic and go with it. You can ramble on about that for ages. And just say, you want to improve people's mental health and suicide is a problem and blah blah, because there's no real solutions. They're not going to really put forward a real solution to it. They're just going to be bland about it.
There are a lot of topics like that, really, that are they compose of just vague generalities, and if you spew out a few basic cliches and slogans, you're kind of covered for that particular topic,
Exactly.
So.
But it's a good one for them to come in to a party or politics, or I know it's RTE now. All these celebs that come in, or ex-singers, even ex-footballers, ex-sports stars. That's their way. That's their foot in the doors to talk about mental health. The time I was depressed.
Yeah.
And the time I tried to kill myself, or the time I was down,
and it really it's the real bleeding heart. It really brings out the bleeding heart. I sure God love him, the poor fella.
Yeah, and that's their foot in the door.
Yeah.
And next thing, that's it. Next thing is whatever they want.
That's right, yeah. That's right. You're right there. You're right there, Ted.
So anyway, her qualifications is she's a lesbian. She works in the media. She won Rose of Tralee. So that's about it. There's a church in Calasser. And there's a Father John Durkin, and he invited her to give a speech. I don't know what it was about, probably about mental health or something. And she gave her speech in front of the altar in a Catholic church, and she used this as part of her public relations exercise to get elected in the Euros. And I find that very insulting. I'm pretty disappointed about that, because she's using this church for political purposes and a photo opportunity. And considering that she was strongly in favour of abortion, and she doesn't believe in a lot of the religious scriptures and views and rules, etc. So I don't know what, I mean, in my opinion, that's kind of like desecrating the sanctity of the church, you know, because it's mocking. It's really mocking the people who do have strong Christian beliefs. So that's not on, really, you know.
Yeah, I find it a bit odd that a priest or whatever would allow someone like that to use the church, you know. I mean,
You know, but that's the modern church, you know.
I find it a bit odd personally, you know, that. But you know, it comes back to backbone again. We're talking about the guy there in Fianna Fáil. He's pro-life, but yet won't leave the party. It's kind of similar thing, really, isn't it, with people like that in the church? You know, you either stand up for what the church supposedly stands for or not, you know, and that would include not allowing such people to make use of your facilities.
Yeah,
that's how I would see it. Okay.
So that's it. Like, I mean, she's pretty much everything I hate about politics, really. This one, you can tell she doesn't give a shit about it, you know.
Yeah,
she doesn't really care, you know. Anyway, so Mairead McGuinness.
Yeah, she's been vice president of the European Parliament and has been an MEP since 2004.
Yeah. I always find anytime she's on TV, she's full of herself, you know. She was on, I don't know, did you see the time she was on BBC Question Time?
Oh, hold on, yeah, I think I did see that, actually. I saw it on YouTube, or I saw some clips from it, you know.
It was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I thought she was a bit out of her depth.
Well, you could see the comments from British people who wouldn't be used to seeing her, and they were saying, every comment was like, who is this woman? She loves herself, you know. I mean, she's such a high opinion.
Was Peter Hitchens in that same debate?
No, I think Jordan Peterson was.
Yeah, I knew it was something like that. Yeah, Jordan Peterson. Okay.
Yeah, and everything she was talking about, it was, I did this and I helped do this, and it was all me, you know. I'm brilliant, you know.
So she's a very humble person.
Yeah, and she's absolutely hopeless. I mean, she'd sell out the country in a heartbeat, you know what I mean. She used to be on RT, Ear to the Ground, and Celebrity Farm, and she was a journalist with the Irish Farmers Journal. So.
Yeah, I can see she's a Bachelor of Science degree in Agricultural Economics.
So that's... Well, I think because her TV show was so popular, Ear to the Ground, and she was pretty good on that now, to be honest. I think that's how she got into the European Parliament, because people knew her from the TV show.
I suppose we're kind of back really to what we discussed, you know, previously about people voting for people that they're familiar with. You know, that there's a comfort in that familiarity.
Yeah,
that's a perfect example there now, you know. I know her, I liked her show, I'll give her a vote.
Exactly, yeah. Well, that's how it worked. It's just like with Sean Kelly. He was in the GEA, you know. I mean, to get to that recognition where you're known by most of the country, that takes years, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
As a politician, and they've already got that from TV or organisations or stuff, you know. So it's like Casey with Dragon's Den, you know. So it's a huge advantage.
That's right. Of course it is. Yeah, there's a huge reach there, you know. I remember the Edge, U2. You know, he once said that getting your song in the radio will do more for you than 3 years of gigging, of playing concerts. You know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's the same thing, really, isn't it?
So, anything else to say about these two? I mean, so Marie Walsh, she was 7-1. She's gone down to 9-2. So she could, you know, it depends. Mairead McGuinness could bring her over with transfers. I mean, Mairead McGuinness is 1-20, so she's a shoe-in. And you know, she could drag her in, you know.
She'd be up there anyway, you know.
Yeah. So next one, Matt Carty, Sinn Féin.
Okay, so he's been an activist in the Irish Republican Party, Sinn Féin, since 1996, and he studied marketing for a year at the Dublin Institute of Technology, where he formed a Sinn Féin College Common in 1996. So he was elected as the first Sinn Féin member of Carrickmacross Town Council in County Monaghan in 1999, becoming the youngest elected representative in the country at 21 years old.
Yeah.
So he's been in the game a while, so he still looks quite young.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much gone straight from college to politics. You
Yeah.
know,
So he's never really had a career as such. You know,
yeah.
he's-
I mean, he was a full-time youth organizer. Yes, so he said that in Dublin, in Sinn Féin's party, and a press officer for Sinn Féin. Yeah, so smooth trajectory from college to politics. He seems to be a nice guy. He always has a happy-go-lucky face on him. But as I said, I don't know what to do out there. You know, so he's not going to rock the boat for sure. You know, but he's 1 to 10. He probably will get in, I'd say. With
a familiar face again, you say?
yeah, and Donegal and some northwestern counties probably won't in. Yeah. Okay, so that's him. Cyril Brennan, People Before Profit, Solidarity.
You've written here the loony bin candidate,
Yeah, I
native
wrote
of Ballyshannon, County Donegal.
Yeah.
So he's for universal health care. What's this? The Still Waiting Health campaign? With the aim of applying pressure on the government to provide decent services for our communities.
Yeah.
So the usual kind of generalities again. I've campaigned on housing, water, repeal the 8th. So I presume he means he campaigned to repeal the 8th Amendment.
Yeah, of course. The solidarity, People Before Profit, yeah.
And he's campaigned on the introduction of a new public holiday.
Really? Where's the... Oh, yeah,
It says
he
here.
did.
But he forgot to campaign for daylight savings time. You know, I'm very concerned about that. You know,
Well, he has
it's
to wait till he gets elected to do that.
Yeah.
So it's the usual bull that appeals to anyone and everyone, but no one, really.
Yeah.
He's 150 to 1.
All right.
When I last checked. Actually, he's gone down to 125 to 1, so...
Yeah. So he's a kind of a yes we can type of chap here. It says here that he believes that together we are stronger and together we can achieve a fair and equal society.
Yeah, well, it's not going to happen, and he's not going to get elected. So, Dominic Hannigan, then Labour.
All right. He was a senator for the Labour panel 2007 to 2011.
So he lost his seat at the last election.
Yeah.
He's openly gay. See, I don't know why they keep saying this. Like, it's not like I don't go around telling people I'm heterosexual. You know. Well, why do they need to say these things? Why is that important to say that?
Well, they obviously think it's important, you know.
Yeah.
It's not important to me. It's not important to you, but I suppose, you know, the way society is going now, they seem to think that it is important and it gets them a few extra votes, you know.
Yeah, it's like I'm gay. Look at me. I've suffered.
Yeah.
You know. So he's the progressive choice for Europe. Well, it's just rubbish, isn't it?
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? You've written here a non-entity, another political parasite, and there are many of those in Ireland.
Yeah.
A life of sucking. So next up we have Sarah McHugh, or Saoirse McHugh, my apologies. For those of you who speak Irish, Saoirse means freedom. She's from Achill Island, Mayo, another environmentalist, a democratic socialist and a grower.
Democratic socialist pretty much just means she's communist, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And if she's an environmentalist, she's leaning that way anyway, you know.
Yeah.
Here she's saying here, climate breakdown is the most critical challenge that humanity has ever faced. However, it presents an enormous opportunity to the sometimes forgotten communities in the Midlands, Northwest.
Yeah, but it doesn't say how.
Yeah, exactly.
What is this opportunity?
It's all bullshit, basically. You know. That's, you know. Exactly. Yeah. And she probably wants to litter the place with wind farms and wave machines and what have you. You know.
Yeah.
All paid for and subsidized by the taxpayer, of course. She's done a master's in sustainable agriculture and food security in Lancaster University and has focused on the politics of food production and ended up working with the Irish Seed Savers Association in County Clare, where she became acutely aware of the fragility of our food system.
Yeah. Again, all these NGOs and stuff. I just seen one there. I've been working with the Community Environment Legal Defence Fund, CELDF. I don't know who they are. Yeah, so I've been working with the Community Environment Legal Defence Fund in the United States. So she's been on trips to America.
So she's saying here she's been working with them on the possibility of getting a, quote, rights of nature, unquote, bill into the Irish constitution, and have been relentlessly badgering politicians about issues such as climate change, community resilience and biodiversity loss. So this is a complete headbanger, basically.
So, I mean, but like, you wonder about like who funds these trips to America, you know, and who...
Taxpayer. Almost certainly applying for, like these days, if you apply for any kind of grant and just stick in the phrase climate change research or something like that, you'll probably get a grant, you know. So probably from the taxpayer, university, maybe from an NGO, or maybe she works part-time for an NGO, who knows, you know. So and you know how much money taxpayers I wouldn't use the word donate, but how much you know, NGOs, they get a huge amount of money from Irish taxpayers.
Yeah. So basically, anyway, her what I'm figuring out, like, she just wants to build a lot of wind farms. That's my reading of everything she said there. Maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, as I said previously, I think there's going to be a swing to the Greens. I actually think she might have an outside chance. I mean, it's 50-1, and that's quite a lot, but as I said before, when you get big prices, it's always worth a little punt, you know, a small punt. You know, I mean, as I said, like, I mean, there's going to be there might be a left wing, right wing extreme, and people might avoid the main parties.
Yeah.
So,
well, if you remember, if you listen to that interview I did with Patter, we were talking about France, and he was basically saying about the French elections coming up, or the Euros in France. He felt that people are either going to go extreme right or extreme left.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
yeah. So she might have a chance there. So 50-1, it's worth a few quid anyway, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
£2 or something.
Yeah.
So the next two then, Dilip Mahapatra.
Dilip Mahapatra.
Good, nice Irish name there.
And Dermot Mulcahy. He's Indian? That has a kind
Mulcahy?
of no, Mahapatra has a bit of an Indian ring to it, doesn't it? Or does it?
Yeah,
I'm just looking at the photograph here, so.
Well, he's a medical doctor.
Is he? Okay, yeah.
Dundalk.
Okay.
He was trying to get on the Fianna Fáil ticket for the European elections, but he didn't get it. So he's going independent now. I was saying he's even too shit for Fianna Fáil.
Maybe they have their quota of immigrants, you know, for their elections this time around, you know. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know,
they're diverse. I mean, maybe they've reached their
quota.
their
I know
quota
they have
for
in
diversity, you know.
In Longford, they have a few. I think they have an African woman. And
do you know anything about him, or what he stands for?
No, I don't actually. And as for Dermot,
Mulcahy.
Dermot Mulcahy, he was on the Joe Finnegan show, and he said that Ireland needs to tackle climate change. It would be naive if there wasn't a national conversation about climate change. So that's his main thing there. So that's we can pass him by then. I think.
I find it interesting because all I seem to hear on the national airwaves is climate change.
Yeah. What does it mean? We need to have a conversation about what kind of conversation like that we're not already having. Yeah.
It's a one-way conversation, really, isn't it?
Exactly. I was just going to say that. Yeah, it's not a conversation that I really want to take part in, but I've no choice, do I?
Yeah.
But if I look at my TV shows or open the newspapers, so these two are not in the betting. They've no hope. You know, I mean, why wouldn't a guy just like that just join the Socialist Party or just join the Green Party?
Like he says here, Ireland is already seeing the effect of global warming, and action will need to be taken.
Yeah, action will need to be taken.
Of course, it hasn't warmed in 20 years, and we're on the beginnings of going into another ice age. But he obviously.
But what's the big deal if Ireland gets warmer? So what?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's too cold anyway. It's too cold.
You know.
The Great Ireland was
absolutely, it's freezing outside. I just bought the bins up the Boreen there, and I was freezing, battered by the rain.
Wouldn't it be great if Ireland was like Spain?
It'd be fantastic, absolutely fantastic. You know.
You can save money. You wouldn't have to be traveling to Spain every summer.
Yeah, I know.
Spain and Portugal.
Exactly, yeah.
Another two independents. Two interesting ones, I think. These two. Olive O'Connor and James Miller. So the O'Connor lady, she, as I said, she's part of this trio that are representing the Health First, Equality for All. Was it? She's representing the healthcare. What would you say? The Health First. Who was it?
There was two other ladies, wasn't there?
Yeah. I don't know what they're under though. It's not very clear. Anytime I look at it.
So they have the three of these people formed a kind of an alliance together of some sort.
But it's not really a party though. It's so it's equality for all in the health service, and it's health first. So they will concentrate on health issues before any other issues, which is fair enough, I think. I mean, and this was on her. I think this was on her webpage or one of her pages anyway. I've seen she represents. So she has a few questions that she answers, and I think that it's very clever. This is a good way of making your case. I think Are you on a waiting list to see a specialist or have surgery? If so, I care. Have you or a loved one been left on a trolley for hours on end? If so, I care. Do you work in healthcare and feel undervalued and stressed? If so, I care. Are you sick of our taxpayers' money being wasted in our country? If so, I care. Do you think your voice is heard by our political leaders? If not, then I will be your voice. I think that's very good.
Yeah, it's a very Gemma-esque, if you like.
Yeah.
It does. You're right. Actually, it does kind of stand out. It's a bit different.
Well,
it's involving the listener or the reader, you know.
Yeah, well, it speaks to a lot of people. It's not none of this wishy-washy, climate change bullshit. The world is going to end in 15 years. Let's do something about it. It's more to the point, Well, it says she cares. So,
what's her position on abortion?
Well, I don't think she has. I think she just. It seems that she might be pro-abortion, but from what I've been reading in her tweets, it does seem to be fair to her. She has a reasoned stance.
Should be more neutral on it. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that she has stuck up for the abuse that a lot of pro-life people have been getting online. So, which I think is very fair. I mean, I would say she could be probably pro-abortion, but I mean, as I said, she seems fairly balanced about it, which is fair enough. I mean, I can accept that, It's the people that go crazy about it that are in pain, Even though she's still sitting on the fence about it, but as I said, she's more rational on it than the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
She seems to accept both points of view. I mean, if you can accept the other person's point of view in a reasoned debate, and rather than shouting and trying to put them down and call them extremists, But I don't know. Do we do that? Do we? Probably we do.
Well, I mean, I can see the tragedy of certain situations, where someone has been raped or whatever. But it comes back to do two wrongs make a right, something is either right or I think it's one of those issues in life where it's either right or it's wrong, regardless of the circumstances that led to that situation, So, like in my mind, it's always wrong. It might sound a bit uncaring, for someone in that situation, but it just is what it is. That's how I view it. Maybe I'm being a bit too black and white, but that's what I believe, and
but the thing is, even though when we're presenting we're presenting our opinions, we always try and give facts. We don't willy-nilly make up lies. At least I don't. But you've seen that from the other side. They just make up complete nonsense, and they don't care about it. Not a care in the world. As long as they get,
Well, there's a lot of emotion in. I find when you notice yourself with many issues, even climate change and all this, it's always encompassed and wrapped up in emotion and feelings. Their arguments, and it's just trying to get past those emotions and feeling to the rational argument. That's the difficulty, really, when you're trying to discuss issues with people like that. It's peeling away the emotion and the feelings. You'll often find when you get beyond the emotions and the feeling, there's actually very little. They don't have a very well constructed argument, and that's when you get the ad hominem attacks where they start attacking you personally.
So that's Olive O'Connor. She seems
Yeah, she's nice.
pretty.
She's a nice smile, you know. So
Yeah, photo's pretty good. She
you know,
seems like a nice person.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see her do okay.
Hmm.
I don't think I'd be voting for her if I mean, this is my constituency, but I don't think I'll be home in time. Anyway, James Miller then is interesting. He is pro-life. He's a farmer. He wants to support and protect the traditional Irish family and family values.
That sounds good. I see here as well, and this is very, very interesting, and I would be completely behind that. Now, if you look in Germany, like Germany have never had a kind of a bank bailout or anything like that.
Okay.
I think they have a similar system in New Zealand, where it's kind of like a community bank is. It's where all it's kind of like the original idea behind a credit union, where they have, everybody pulls their funds in. It's they're not kind of really involved with the big pillar banks, so to speak, who are more concerned about loan, like a big pillar bank. They're normally concerned with loaning to big business and all that, whereas these community banks are more concerned with the general populace, helping people build homes and things like that, and that's what they're involved in, and they are, as I said, as far as I know, a community bank in Germany has never ever gone bust and has never been bailed out, so I think I think it's actually what Ireland actually lacks. There's too much control from the central bank. Even now the central bank has taken over the credit unions in the last 10 years, and originally the credit unions were set up to be a kind of a community system, but now when you go to get a loan in the credit union, you have to go through about 1 million bureaucratic hoops, and get the approval of the central bank, which you never had to do before. So I like basically the bailout, the crisis we had 10 years ago was used as an excuse by the central bank to come in and essentially take over the credit unions, which is what they successfully did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so it's a good idea. I mean, he has a few good ideas. He has 5G there. I don't know what you think about that, but I was looking at an interesting video about 5G, and it was kind of coming at it from a different angle. I know, like Gemma goes on about it, like it's gonna basically, or I think what she's trying to say is it's gonna fry our brains, basically.
Yeah.
But the thing I was looking at, it was just talking about our attention spans, people's attention spans, just generally. It's not specifically because it's 5G, but it seems as computers get quicker, our attention spans get smaller, And is this what we're really striving for? That it seems that every time that they increase the G, and our attention spans are getting smaller. So basically, we have the attention span of a fish at this stage,
Yeah, I think people are just becoming, the more technology advances, people are just getting becoming more and more lazy. They don't want to read books, they want to stare at their screens. And it's I find myself, I have an iPad there. I have to admit, it can be addictive at times, and I have to force myself to sit down and read a book. And I got rid of my television last summer, so which has kind of been good for me. I mean, we watch all we watch really is movies anyway. I just replaced it with a projector. That's what I did. And when we want to watch a movie, I just pull down the projection screen. We don't do that very often. So I think all this technology is great. Technology is great when it's when it works, obviously, and when it serves the purpose for which it's intended. But technology can also be extremely addictive and is not good for our health.
He wants to put a halt to it until it's proven safe for our environment and our people. But the point I'm trying to make is that, like, whatever about the open market, but I've seen it. They use it in schools now. iPads and all this thing. And there's some schools, I think, I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just total laptops and notebooks, and there's no books in the school at all.
Yeah, no, I'm completely against that,
Because, there's reading a book, it opens up a different part of your brain. It's, you're stopping and thinking and understanding and trying to get rational, and it's not instant. And because it's not instant, you have time to reflect, and because everything is so fast now, it's addictive, and it's just bang, 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 and you're not thinking. There's no thought process. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's different for our generation because we grew up with no computers, and I just worry about. I still think like God knows what it's going to be like in, you know,
in 20
I don't
years,
know.
30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, I used to love reading books when I was young, when I was a child or teenager, and it's a kind of a very, I find with books that it really kind of when you're reading books, it really activates the mind, like you say. It activates your imagination. It activates your thought processes, your creativity. You're reading a book, a story. Your mind is kind of visualizing things as you're reading, and I think there's with technology, laptops, there's almost a sense of instant gratification. And as soon as you're onto one thing, you want to click on the next thing, and there's no sense of pausing and, like you're saying, thinking and just enjoying the moment of it can be very relaxing as well, reading. And
so what do you think of this 5G then? Is it
5G? I'm going to be honest, Obviously, I've heard Gemma ranting and raving about it, and how all the trees are being cut down. And I've seen some trees cut down in the city. I have no idea why they were cut down. But I know a lot of people are very, very concerned about it. And I'll be honest, I haven't done a huge amount of investigation into it. Like any technology, if it hasn't been proven safe, then I would be concerned about it. So from what I'm hearing through Gemma's channel, okay, maybe Gemma's a little bit biased, just a little bit, but even from other sources, there are health and safety concerns about it. So from that perspective, I would have certain concerns. Technology itself sounds great, but I would want to have the assurance that it is absolutely safe.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, I don't know, again, the mad rush. Ireland is always rushing to do this and do that. They never stop and think, And as I said, putting it into schools, and, I don't know, it's just, I don't know what kids are going to learn just looking at a screen all day. So he has a few interesting points. I mean, he this guy seems like he's the Gemma Doherty of the
Where's he from?
The Northwest. He's from Westmeath.
Westmeath,
so,
okay, yeah.
It's just one more thing. There's one more thing he says that I like. He said more needs to be done to facilitate the return home of our generation lost to immigration, and facilitate first and second generation Irish to live in Ireland. I really think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think more should be done on that. I mean, we've seen the pictures of all the nurses in Sydney, and they'd all just love to return here and work in the hospitals, but because of the corruption in this country,
Even the diaspora, I mean, I think they should be given priority over people from the third world, or people who have no connection with Ireland. I met a lady there, it could have been over a year ago. She was American, and I was asking her, how she got on during her time here. I think they'd been here for a year, herself and her husband. And she said, I absolutely love Ireland, and I really want to stay here for another few years or whatever. And I said, and she explained to me that she had applied to do that, right? Now, she had a real Irish name. I can't remember. It could have been something like Murphy or O'Connor. That was her actual name. And she told me that the Irish authorities actually told her that she would have to have something like 50 grand in the bank before they would even consider allowing her to stay in Ireland. I couldn't believe it, And she was just, and she exactly represented the type of person you would want here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
No, it might have been 50 grand, it could have been 40 grand, it could have been 30, I don't remember, but it was a lot of money anyway. It was an amount of money that your average person would not have sitting around in their bank account. So
this guy has a few good things, and he's anti-abortion as well. So I mean, I kind of like this guy, James Miller.
He sounds pretty good. He sounds like he's got his head screwed on straight.
Exactly, he sounds like he's on the ball.
Yeah.
Really. So then from those two pretty good candidates, I think, we go to Peter Casey and Ming.
Peter Casey, yeah.
Two for the price of one.
Exactly, yeah. Peter Casey, I don't know what Peter Casey's a bit of a clown, really, isn't he? I just don't know what to make of him, because
total clown.
He keeps flip-flopping on things. Like I told you, I saw him last week on some show, and I think it was on RTE actually, and the presenter, I can't remember what her name is, she asked him straight out, she said, if you get elected, Peter, will you support, quote, the in far right people, will you make an alliance with the far right crowd in Europe? And he said, he categorically said that he wouldn't. No, if you break down what far right is in her mind, it was just normal conservatives like yourself and myself, so and he's the kind, based on some of the things he's been saying, you'd imagine he's the type of character who would be in an alliance with conservatives, but apparently not. So I never know when he says something, I never know whether he's serious or not.
No, he's always playing to the gallery.
He's just, but I think clown is the, he's like the court jester, really, isn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, there's a positive in that he wouldn't do any damage out there. He wouldn't be, because he's so fucking stupid. I don't think I don't think anybody be able to manage him either. He's just off the walls, really. He's too silly. Do you not think so? I mean,
I think he's kind of. I find him a bit odd. I have to admit, he is a bit odd, a bit.
You probably wouldn't take it seriously anyway.
It's kind of...
He'd be like Luke, that he'd be gone missing and all the voting.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know. Like,
you wouldn't take it seriously.
I can't really. I'm not too sure. When I hear him say something, I'm kind of going like, is he for real? Does he really mean this, or is he going to change his mind now next week when he gets on some talk show? It's kind of, he's hard to pin down.
He was against abortion before, and now he's for abortion.
Is he? Okay, yeah. Well, this is exactly what I mean. You don't. He seems to keep changing his mind. Depending on who he's talking to. So.
Yeah. Is he trying to be like, I don't know, Donald Trump or something? I don't know.
I was just thinking that, but at least when Donald Trump says he stands for something, he stands for it.
Yeah.
So I think he has this idea in his head that if he says something politically incorrect, it brings him more attention. So that's the reason. That's why he says these things.
Trying to be outrageous. He's 47. He has a chance, though. He has a serious chance. People are easily fooled, So. I
mean, he did get a huge quantity of votes in the presidential election, So
yeah.
It says here he also believes Ireland is now ready for a debate about euthanasia.
Yeah, well, we can start with people like him, no problem.
Yeah, emphasizing that it's a choice that he would like to be able to make. So. Yeah, he is a clown. I mean, come on, like,
we go from him to Ming then. I mean, Ming kind of started off as a bit of a joke candidate as well, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Marijuana was his
big thing,
his thing, really, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but to be fair, like to Ming, I mean, he has done a lot of good as well. I mean, I like the fact that he promised to only retain half of his salary when he was a TD. And he distributed the rest to local projects. That was very noble of him. Mm-hmm. He stands up for the boggers, the turf cutters, and I'm big into that. Someone that's from the bog. I'm a bogger myself, so. Mm-hmm.
Have you cut turf?
No, but we always get turf every year. So I liked when he told. I thought this was good when he was having a fight with Coveney in the Dáil about turf cutting rights, and Coveney told him to go out and walk in protest, and Flanagan threw it back at him and said, "My daddy did not give me this seat,"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Referring to the fact that Simon Coveney was elected in the by-election after his daddy died.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a great thing to say, because it's so true.
But what do you think of Mick Flanagan's performance in Ruski?
I thought it was very poor, actually. I don't know. It didn't look like he was up for the fight, really. I mean,
did you see him in the European Parliament when he called Viktor Orban dirt?
Yeah. I wonder what he said that to his face, though.
How tall? How big is Luke Ming? Is he small? Orban is a pretty hefty guy.
He's pretty scrawny.
Yeah.
Fella. I was a bit disappointed with the abortion thing. I would have thought Luke would have at least remained quiet about it, because he's from a rural area, or at least in the west of Ireland, and I was just a bit disappointed with that. I probably should have guessed he was pro-abortion, but I don't know. I was just thought I just had it in my head. At least he could.
Yeah, I never would have put him as being anti-abortion or pro-life.
No. I just thought he had a bit of common sense, but I don't know. He's just like the rest. Then he's not as much of a rebel as he makes himself out to be.
Well, I mean, I think the big money can really knock the rebelliousness out of you pretty quick, you know, if you're earning a lot of money, which I'm sure he is in the EU, you know. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obvious that, I mean, his voting record as well out in Europe, it's pretty poor. And
do you know anything about that?
He was named as having the second worst voting record among all the Irish MEPs. I guess the guy in the wheelchair had the worst.
You mean, when you say worst, you mean not voting, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
And he just explained it's because his wife was ill and his children needed him. Well, why the fuck did he go out to Brussels then? And why is he going again for election then?
Yeah.
If they can't stand him being away from home. I mean, it's only Strasbourg and Brussels. It's not bloody.
But like, what else would he do? What was he doing before he became a politician?
It's not Ulaanbaatar, you know.
Yeah.
You know?
But like, what was he doing before he got elected? What was his profession?
I don't know. Full-time cannabis grower, I think. Could he not just bring them with him then? Get a nice little pad out in Brussels. In Molenbeek, maybe.
Oh, Molenbeek, yeah. He has the beard for it, you know.
Yeah. So basically, I think with Luke, he's done a lot of good things. He'd sometimes get it right, but in the end, I'm disappointed with him, and he's kind of playing to the gallery as well now.
He's a good talker, but he doesn't really say much.
He's playing to the gallery. He's playing to the D4 types. They'll pat him on the back and say, "You're great," you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then we have a few more. We have 3 more. How are we doing?
Patrick Green and Michael O'Dowd.
So Direct Democracy and Renew Ireland. I think Pat Green is actually leader of their Direct Democracy, but I don't know a whole lot else about him. Mm-hmm. I think Michael O'Dowd, I think he's actually leader of Renew.
I think Renew have really come on a lot since I nearly said Gemma O'Doherty left them, since Lucinda Creighton left them, you know.
They have, yes.
I think they've really turned a corner. I know I've said that before. They're very much moving into the populist, what you might call the populist territory. Yeah. And I know I'm kind of following a few Renew candidates, but members on Twitter, and I always enjoy their tweets, you know. So I would have no issue. I don't think there's any Renew candidates in my area, but otherwise I would definitely consider them for my vote, you know.
Yeah, there's a guy from Galway. What's his name again?
O'Mahony, is it?
Yeah, I think that's his name. He's brilliant.
Yeah, he's very good. Yeah,
brilliant.
He's the leader of Renew, isn't he? Is it Neil O'Mahony?
Neil O'Mahony, yeah. I don't think it is. I think it's this fella, O'Dowd. Okay. I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're one of those parties that are not really bothered about pushing the leader. It's kind of they're all together. No, John Lee is the party leader, I think. Who's he? He's a councillor in Offaly. Okay, Burr County. So yeah, he's the leader. So it's not this fella. So, but
So yeah, their ideology here is Christian democracy, social conservatism, economic liberalism, anti-abortion, soft Euroscepticism.
Yeah, I agree with all those points. Yeah, that's me, really.
Yeah. You know? Yeah, I like that phrase actually, soft Euroscepticism. You know, I think it.
Well, that might be a bit hard there, but I'm willing to accept. Maybe if it was changed. So this guy, he's kind of big in supporting people with disabilities. That's a big thing for him. Sustainable job creation policies. There was a bit of controversy with the Rosa Parks thing. He said something about Rosa Parks, and he said that the Rosa Parks thing was, she was a trained activist, and he claimed that it was orchestrated as part of an ongoing campaign. So he put this up in a tweet, and he had to delete it because he got so much backlash on social media.
But that was correct.
Yeah, I know. So I don't understand what was the backlash, because the real story about Rosa Parks was there was a girl and she was only 15, but she in Montgomery, and she refused her seat, but because she was only 15, and I think because she wasn't a member of the civil rights movement, and because she reacted in a very aggressive way, that they decided not to use her as the face for the movement, and they decided to use Rosa Parks.
Hmm.
So it was planned. I mean, she wasn't even from Montgomery.
Hmm.
Not that it makes a big deal. So, so I think it was unfair to attack him just out of that, because all these things do be written under Wikipedia. You know what I mean? Like, this is nothing, but because he's not of the right politics, that they will use this as something to write about in his Wikipedia page, or something to write in the first page in Google, whereas someone like in a major party could say something off the wall, but you'll never get it in a search on Google or in the Wikipedia. You understand? I mean, like, you won't get what he really believes. You have to really search for it, but you'll get this, type in his name and this immediately comes up, this bullshit. So it's silly.
It's a problem with Wikipedia. Anybody can input anything on it,
And the thing is, he was correct in what he said, So anyway.
So the betting odds I see here are 50-1. Are they still 50-1? Do you know?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay. And that leaves us with the last one then, Fidelma Healy Eames, I think you pronounced that. Yeah. So she used to be in Fine Gael, and she was expelled from the Fine Gael parliamentary party because she defied the party whip, and she voted against the protection of life during pregnancy bill. So I think she's pro-life, and I think that's why she left Fine Gael.
Well, at least, see, this comes back to what we spoke about earlier, that at least in this case, we have someone who was in one of these parties and at least had the courage of their convictions to actually just leave the party, or in her case, be kicked out of it, and start her own thing.
She did play a small part in the pro-life campaign during the referendum. She advocated adoption as an option, which no one really talked about, I think, which is a good... I think it's a good option to talk about. But
well, it's a good option to talk about, but in reality, it's not a good option, because last year in Ireland, I think only 5 children were adopted. Can you believe that? A lot of children are just babies, just put into foster care, and very few children are actually being adopted.
Yeah, I wonder what the reasoning behind that is.
Well, I think that this whole foster care system is very lucrative financially for people. I don't know if you listened to that video, that woman I interviewed. We touched on this outside the Gemma O'Doherty event. If it's my last few videos, we talked a bit about it. I met a lady recently, and she had some adoptive children, but she adopted them all from the States. I think her husband had American citizenship, and she was a very interesting lady, and we just touched on the fact that I think she did try to adopt here in Ireland at one stage, but she said it was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare.
Yeah,
And I might try to get in touch with her again and maybe do an interview with her. That'd be very, very interesting if I could. It's something that's at the back of my mind. But yeah, very few children are adopted in Ireland. It's really shocking.
So she herself is an adoptive parent of 2, so it's something personal for her. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't really outline too much what other things she believes, but I mean, she's pro-life, so that's a big plus to my part. So that's pretty much Midlands and Northwest. Not as exciting maybe as the other 2. And if I was to give a preference, for me, I think that James Miller guy, the farmer from Kilbeggan.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd go with him as well.
And number 2, I'd actually give it to Fidelma Healy Eames.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that she left Fine Gael, it's principles, O'Dowd in Renew, and then I guess Pat Green, direct democracy. So that'd be about it for me. What about yourself?
Yeah, I kind of, that's pretty much what I'd be doing as well. James Miller, yeah, and Fidelma Healy Eames, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
First 2.
So we went through the 3 of them. 3. I think we're pretty tired at this stage.
Constituencies, yeah.
So. Just before we finish, have you any views on the general Euro elections, how it'll pan out over Europe, or do you have any opinions on that?
Well, I feel a bit disconnected from what's going on in Europe. As you know, as I said earlier, my friend Pater in France was saying that he reckons it'll go in France anyway. Extreme right, extreme left. I think we will see some changes overall across Europe.
Yeah.
Certainly, I think you'll see more populists getting voted. People in Europe are very much closer to a lot of the issues that haven't really affected us to the same extent here in Ireland, especially immigration and all that. So, it's like, as we've already discussed before, Ireland is always the last to react. We're stuck, we're in like a little island out here in the Atlantic, the edge of Europe. So I think you will see, in Germany now you've got the AfD. I would say you will see an increase of candidates there, and I think the European Parliament overall will start to drift more towards, maybe using that word again that we had written down there, soft Euroscepticism.
Well, even in England, Farage's Brexit party, I was looking at the odds last week. They were 4-1, third favourites to be the biggest party, but they've gone down to, I think, 4-7 now. So they're favourites. I should have put something on when they were 4-1, but so his party's going to get. But there's an interesting one in England now. Tommy Robinson is going for, I think it's the north east of England, and he's 4-1, I think, 3-1, 4-1 to get elected. And I'm not a big fan of Tommy Robinson, but I think I'd love to see him get elected, because I think the lefties' heads would melt if Tommy Robinson got into the European Parliament.
You're right. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of him either, but at the same time, I would like to see him elected.
It'd be hilarious, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Him and Farage.
Exactly, yeah.
Farage back again.
So So I think, you're right. I think he has a good chance. And again, he's got a high profile. People know who he is, love him or hate him. So he has a lot of followers out there.
I wonder would Luke Mink Flanagan give any lip to him? Because Tommy used to be he's an ex-hooligan.
I think Tommy would be well able for Luke now.
You could bring some turf with him and maybe hit him across the head with it. But so Tim, overall, I think that was a bit of a marathon session. So we'll cut it up into 3 maybe. But I don't think, to be honest, we're going to be celebrating any of our picks getting elected.
Yeah, we can always hope, but if you really sit down and logically think about it, it's when we think of someone like Gemma O'Doherty or these people who we would love to see elected, even just for the crack, if we really look deep inside ourselves logically, it's I'm not very hopeful.
It's just
simply in Gemma's case, it's simply because she hasn't allowed herself enough time to really penetrate public awareness, and but Herman Kelly, I'm not so sure. I think he might have a chance.
Really,
he is getting a bit of coverage on TV. Matt Cooper and Ivan Yates bring him on their TV show. So he might have a chance. I think he's a much better chance than Gemma, simply because more people know who he is. He gets more coverage.
My guy in Ballyho, what was his name again?
Ballyho Says No. That guy.
What was his name? Dermot O'Flynn. Fingers crossed for him, maybe. I wouldn't.
Yeah, down south here, then I'm going to give my first preference to Dolores Cahill, and but then again, it comes down to familiarity, and when I go out in the streets here, I'm overwhelmed by posters, mainstream party posters. And it's hard to get away from that.
Okay, Tim. So thanks very much for your time and for your expert analysis on the elections.
Expert analysis.
So
I don't think so, but it's good. I think it's good for us as just to give our opinions. We'll leave it at that. So Rob, and look, we'll chat again soon.